Today's date is April 16th, 2018. Hello and welcome to Hit the Books Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Holcomb.
And I'm Emery Saunders.
And here with us today is a special guest.
I'm Seth Grover. Hey.
And we're here to give you all the saucy deets on everything comics this week. For those of you unfamiliar with the show, this is your weekly comic book podcast where Emery and I, and perhaps a guest, go through the latest news, the new comic book releases for your local comic book shops.
Please support your local comic book shops.
And discuss some topics about the world of comics for your amusement. If that sounds like a good time, be sure to hit like and subscribe on our YouTube channel and rate well elsewhere. It really does help us out. You can always find us on YouTube, on Stitcher, and on iTunes, and be sure to check out our website, htvvids.com, where you can find links to all of these things, as well as plenty of other written content and lists. And newly announced, we have a Patreon page. It's at patreon.com/hitthebooks. If you want to help support independent content and you feel that you are capable, we would love to have you as a contributor to the show. It will help keep the mics on for the future and invest in future shows, which we are currently working on.
Yeah,
They're not paying me, so the money's not going to me. Don't worry. I'm just here out of the goodness of my heart.
Yeah, while...
It may or may not be voluntary.
Yeah. Again,
Notice he's in between us.
Yeah, this is
I
all...
There's
can't
no
leave.
escape.
I've tried.
You're stuck here. No, it's all purely on donation basis. Whatever you can donate, even if it's just $1 a month, would definitely help us out.
It would go a long
lot.
way. Yeah. We have tiers on there if you're interested in contributing. Of course, for this month, at the executive level, which is very, very generous,
Oh, man.
a friend of the show, Will Beasley, has joined us as a contributor for this month. So, once again, this is the second episode where he gets mentioned as the executive producer of the show.
Shout out to Will. Your generosity is very much appreciated.
Thank you, Will Beasley. And, of course, if you need some life insurance, he's the one to go to.
Oh, yeah.
Emery, what have you been reading?
I actually didn't get to do much reading, but one of the things I did read, it makes me worried, and it hurts. It hurts me deep.
What's that, Emery?
X-Men Red #3.
Oh, yeah. You were, I think you were reading that when I was around at some point.
Your special
Yeah.
Gambit cover. Hot to trot. So what's the problem with it? The covers look cool.
No one sounds like real people.
When you say that, sounds like the dialogue is
The
bad.
dialogue is awful.
Oh,
The dialogue, it sounds like everyone is trying to sound like the same person. The jokes don't land. The entire plot has them weirdly jumping around all over the globe.
Yeah, you were mentioning something about going from Atlantis to
Yeah.
Wakanda?
Yes, weirdly we start them off with traveling out from Atlantis to the UN and then going back to Atlantis, and then the next issue they're just weirdly in Wakanda, and they've made that their base, which continues to be a thing in X-Men Red issue 3. But non sequitur, out of nowhere, shit's popping off in Louisiana, and you know what that means.
Bayou.
Oh, boy.
My favorite Cajun Bayou Billy.
Oh, hot.
Bayou Billy?
So hot.
Nickname for him.
Really? I have not heard that one. Did you just make that up now?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
Mon ami, I am here to save you.
Too French.
Yeah, way too French.
Would you like my crawdaddies?
Oh, boy. Oof.
Yeah, my Gambit sounds a little more like
Crawdaddy
this.
daddy. Ha!
Boy, you don't know none about the crawdads down
My
here.
souffle explodes.
Souffle? No, you're wrong. What?
Zolo, boy.
His power makes it explode.
It just...
Souffles, though? I thought that was regular French.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't-
French.
They're the
It's
same thing. Canadians, Louisiana, France. It's all the same thing.
I'm sorry, France. And Canada and Louisiana. Louisiana.
Yeah, about Louisiana.
What
Been
about
down there.
Louisiana?
Been down there. There are some big fucking bugs in Louisiana.
Yeah.
My time in the Army, I spent many a night on the ground out there, and holy fuck, did I not want to spend more time on the ground out there.
Yeah. Apparently, that might have been the only thing big down there because.
Wow.
Damn.
Wow, man. Wow.
You just say your,
Just
your
calling out Louisiana.
just say your favorite character has a small dick. Is that what you're
Jeez.
saying?
I'm glad we jumped to the same, just appropriate place in our heads. It's like he's talking about penises.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
My next question is, what's with you guys and dicks?
What?
Yeah, about that. No, not about that. About we weirdly have anti-mutant sympathizers just showing up and just saying single words. When,
Who would have thought that would show up in the South?
it's like, I'm going to show up with a bunch of people, and to this one mutant, I'm just going to say, mutie.
Ding, 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 ding.
We ain't too good on them words down there. What?
Was that dialogue they used?
No.
Because you said it was bad dialogue, and that's pretty bad dialogue.
This is dialogue that I could have expected to show up in that issue. It was that fucking... It was so poor. It was so poor and lazy. Oh my God. It hurts. It hurts almost as bad as realizing that we're on issue 3 and the main team still don't have their costumes on.
Well, we already talked about this, right?
Do we have flight suits?
I swear to God, don't you dare bring up the fucking X-Men Apocalypse bullshit.
Emery
Oh,
is
boy.
very sensitive about the flight suits.
Oh, well, Emery, I'm sorry.
The fucking black suits that we keep forcing them into every goddamn time.
They look cool.
They look lame. They look
Okay.
plain.
So story-wise, did you have any issues? Art issues, or is it just the dialogue that's getting on your nerves?
The dialogue is poor. It still seems like no one is taking the whole Sentinels are still a thing seriously. Like these things that strike fear into mutants and have been killing mutants since the 70s, for some reason don't evoke the same fear as they used to.
What's probably like
Have
whole-
you seen the Terminator lately? I mean, same premise. He's been around since the 80s. And
we are not.
Arnold
we are
just
not-
doesn't instill the same amount of fear.
We are not making parallels to that bullshit.
Well,
we are not making.
Well, Terminator's good, man.
No.
And
I'm talking about Terminators happening after Terminator 2.
Okay, no, those don't exist.
But there's another one coming,
What? Why?
2019. It's
No.
in our news.
Case in
For-
fucking point.
Foreshadowing for you.
Fine.
Ghost Rider's in it.
Wait, in
More-
Terminator?
More on that in a little. Yeah.
Wait, what?
I fucking wish Ghost Rider was in it.
I'll elaborate during the news.
Okay,
I'm excited
okay.
for this news because if it's
Okay.
a Terminator, a comic, not a movie, right?
No, it's a movie.
What? I'm assuming the character isn't Ghost Rider.
I guess
Okay,
you'll have to
I'll
find
wait
out.
for the news. Stay tuned for exciting revelations about.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. Maybe not if you're paying attention, but yeah, wow,
Yeah,
I'm excited.
I am thoroughly confused. Anyway, X-Men Red issue 3 sucks.
Aw, sad news.
Yeah.
Read anything
it
else?
sucks, and unfortunately, they roped Storm into this bullshit
Aw.
when she just should be in a better book.
And your boy, Gambit.
Yeah, it hurts.
I really like that number 2 cover, though, that Nightcrawler cover.
I
really
mean,
dug it.
it's very stylish.
Didn't read any of it, but looked cool.
Was he in a hoodie?
The cover did not have him in a hoodie.
No, he was just in the red.
It was
V
it was
thing.
deceptive. It was a very deceptive cover.
For reference, when I was looking over Emery's shoulder and he was reading this, Nightcrawler's just chilling in a hoodie, and
Because
weird.
Yeah. What? How is this a? You know what? I'm already mad. Let's just move on to the one other thing that I read, and that was basically me getting caught up on the new Damnation Ghost Rider, which
all right. Which I also read, and I think we should hold off on that until did the content match the
the
drapes.
segment did not match the drapes.
The magic of editing.
yes.
Ah.
More on that later. But yeah, so far that's really the only thing that I read.
How about you, Grover?
So, as your special guest, I'm a person who's previously been into comics, but I've taken a little bit of a hiatus for an extended period of time.
Interesting.
Basically, I was buying stuff weekly, and that got kind of out of hand for a while. So I went to
Oh,
buying.
look at these boxes behind me.
Oh my! Oh no!
Talk about out of hand. Oh, and
Yeah.
this wall.
I mean,
And
never,
other walls in my apartment here.
never quite to this degree, but
Yeah, I had a problem there for a little
yeah.
while.
So I took a break for a bit.
Had.
Went to things on a monthly basis. I would check in, maybe even like wait till the specific things I was reading would come out in collections and whatnot.
Sure.
So I haven't read anything for a while because I haven't been back to the comic book shop for a while.
So may I ask what broke you off, at least temporarily?
It wasn't a specific story or anything like that. It was I was working 2 jobs at the time, and that just is don't do it.
We all know that noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't great. So I just didn't have time to do stuff I enjoyed, which included reading comics, and then I just never got back on the horse. There was a lot of fun stuff I was reading, but I just need to catch back up.
So typically, what did you gravitate towards the most?
I have really enjoyed stuff from Image recently. Like I was reading a lot of their
yes.
big stuff. Yeah.
You can't go wrong with Image. Yeah.
I think the series is what's the plural of series? Is it just series?
I think it's just series.
Series.
Yeah.
Anyway, the things I was following were I'm gonna space on things. Injection, because I love everything Warren Ellis has ever done.
Warren Ellis is
Oh,
great.
yes.
He's
Like-
been working on the Wildstorm, and I fucking love it.
Oh, nice.
Oh
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Of course, he has a million delays now, but
Right,
because he's
yeah.
writing like 600 books at the same time. But
We can't get enough.
yeah, Warren Ellis is great.
So I was reading Injection. I was also reading Saga, which I think, is one of the
Everybody
big
knows
ones.
is
Everyone
great.
knows
Yeah.
Saga.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's good, but
there's
now
a
it's
reason
big.
why I was reading it. Yeah, but now it's big.
Yeah.
And the hipster inside of me is just like,
It's like Invincible for me. Like I was like, oh, I was reading Invincible when it came out. Now everybody reads Invincible, knows about it, and like, oh, now I don't care anymore.
I can't be the cool kid who's like,
Yeah.
let me tell you about this comic no one's heard about.
No.
And,
With that said, Invincible's still good.
I read it.
Oh,
It's from Robert Kirkman.
oh my God.
Of The Walking
Yeah.
Dead. It's
Okay.
really good book. It's basically a superhero world if the consequences were genuine.
Okay.
When
Ooh, like death is real.
characters,
Ah.
when characters died or were hurt or maimed or
Mhm.
yeah, I don't want to give any spoilers, but
Right.
any kind of horrible event you could imagine occurring to a superhero or a friend or family member of a superhero, that it probably occurs in this book.
Fun.
And it's
Yeah, yeah.
taken in a realistic kind of,
Right.
as realistic as you can be with superheroes
Yeah.
kind of perspective. So it's pretty cool.
Then I think I was reading Trees, but it might have been over. Again, just Warren Ellis stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I was reading something. I think I read a bit of East of West, and then I stopped reading that before I stopped
I've been
reading.
wanting to try it out for a long time because I keep
It's-
seeing it, but I never gave it a shot.
It's just okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the concept's really fun. I like alternate histories and alternate futures.
What's
that
the basic premise of it?
So without getting into any spoilers, you find all this out pretty much within the first issue.
Sure.
But it is an alternate now future that the Civil War, when it happened back in the past, went on for an extended period of time, and the U.S. broke into like 9 or 6 different countries afterwards. And we're now in the future, and the Christian apocalypse is coming. So it's following these the 4 horsemen.
Yeah.
To a degree. I'm trying to remember stuff because it's been a long time. Death showed up before all of them, and he's one of the main characters. The Horseman Death, not like the
Yeah.
Grim Reaper or anything
Sure,
like that.
sure.
But he sort of broke away from them. There's weird cults doing a whole bunch of stuff. It's kind of convoluted, but not necessarily in a bad way. There's a lot going on.
But yeah, that sounds really cool. It sounds really interesting. So, but I don't know. It's just I've always seen it, and it's always on the new solicitations. But I'm just like, it's so far along now, and I don't
Yeah.
want to jump in, and I don't want to have to backtrack and read 30 comics like I did for Aquaman. More on that in a second.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
So, did you read any of the mainstream companies like Marvel, DC?
Not for a long time.
And if so, what did you read?
Yeah, I think the last series in a mainstream series I was reading was, oh God, what was that author's name? it was Uncanny X-Force, like one of their not reruns, but like it started at 1 with this new author, and he went on to do a lot of his own stuff.
Sure.
I think Rick Remender, maybe.
Oh yeah, Rick Remender or Remender, however
Yeah.
you pronounce it.
But that was actually really good. Like I learned about the hero Phantom X, who I like a lot now.
Yeah.
Knew nothing about him before.
Other
You can
Frenchie.
turn the mic towards
Oh,
your mouth.
yes. Yeah.
I remember an issue where there was, for no reason other than they could, a fight between Phantom X and Batroc the Leaper.
Yes. That was I believe in the series I read. Maybe was that in Uncanny? No, it wasn't.
No.
You just told me about it right when I was reading, because I was like, "Hey, there's this cool guy. He's called Phantom X," and you're like, "Oh, let me tell you about the French."
The Batroc the Leaper.
Yes.
I am French.
So that's pretty interesting to hear. Hopefully, we can get you back on board a
Yeah,
little bit.
that's part of why
Maybe
I'm
not
here.
to my extent, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. Or
That's part of why I'm here. Yes.
Or their wallet.
Teach me about comics, my friends.
Now, I went on a reading spree. This week, I had a catastrophic injury occur to my vehicle, which cost me a shit ton of money. So I figured I'd just go back and read all the comics I've been buying for months and months and months, but never getting to because I'm so far behind. So I did a lot of catch up, and I read quite a few books, and then took advantage of my Comixology Unlimited subscription to catch up on other things. So let me just organize this a little bit, because we have some Did the Content Match the Drapes books in here. First up, Oblivion Song number 2. This is Robert Kirkman, again, of Walking Dead fame. His newest book. The first book I was a little tentative on, because they kind of played coy with what had happened in the past. The basic format of this book is there's kind of a parallel dimension, kind of like the Upside Down from Stranger Things, and there was an incident, and now we know because of issue 2 that it was 10 years ago, and it affected thousands of people, where this dimension crossed over into Philadelphia, and this occupied area of Philadelphia, and a bunch of people were attacked and killed by these kind of like monsters that live over there. And then for some reason, it's not really explained. I don't know if they know why, or if they're just playing coy about it. I don't know. It's just kind of his writing style right now. But for some reason, it left. And like all the people
The universe or the monsters?
The monsters and all the like organic things that were from that universe that crossed over into ours, all of that stuff went back. And it was just in this like weird space in Philadelphia, and all the people, the humans, the regular people that were there, got taken back with them.
Oh, fun.
And so the government established this program led by this guy whose brother was taken to the other side. And that's the main character of the book. I can't remember his name because I can't remember any of the characters' names.
Names are hard, okay?
And basically, he leads this really underfunded organization to go back in to try to find people and bring them back. And he has some kind of expensive technology that he's developed that uses some kind of
It's beeping. It means it's a good thing.
pseudoscience vibrations, to go back and forth or whatever to try to find these humans and bring them back. And the first issue starts with him finding 2 people who are scared of him because they think he's some kind of monster from that world, because they just live in perpetual fear trying to escape these things and survive for 10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You can imagine what kind of effect that would have on you. And he's been successful with several people, but clearly there's tens of thousands of people that went over. He tries to identify bodies when he finds them. So like there's a scene, and I want to say the first issue, it might have been the second issue, where he finds a body and he takes a dental imprint of it with some clay or whatever, just to identify the body so he can bring closure to whoever may be related to them. And there's like a monument on our side.
Right.
Of
Yeah.
things, obviously. And there's like weird like subplots going on where there's people that are saying it's the religious groups that are saying it's a sign of the apocalypse and it's God's wrath on us and blah blah blah. And when families go to visit the monument, they protest them and
fun.
yeah, kind of Westboro Baptist-y, But there's like several little threads, and the first issue I had problems because they didn't really explain anything, and I was just kind of lost the whole issue. This issue, I feel like they explain things a lot more, which is good, and they actually fleshed out the characters a little bit. But I still feel like there's just too many threads dangling that makes me want to keep reading, but I not more than like 3 or 4 issues if I have to like keep reading just to stick with this and figure out what the hell they're talking about. And it's not like it's a big mystery. They already know all this stuff. They just don't feel like sharing it with the reader. So not my favorite one of Robert Kirkman's works, but it's solid, even if the premise isn't particularly original. Next up, I read Isola. I think this is an Image book. I might be wrong on that. This is kind of a weird fantasy book. It does a clever thing where you have to like figure out what's going on through context, and it doesn't just outright spell things out for you in narration or anything. It's basically about this young female soldier who is protecting this weird like blue tiger, and through context you find out that the tiger is the queen of whatever kingdom she's from, and something occurred that transformed her into this tiger.
Okay, it's not just like the tiger is our queen.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she can't speak or anything, but she like still gives inflections through stares and body language and stuff like that. And they have, for some reason, they're on the run and they're trying to get to some kind of destination, I'm guessing, for some way to fix whatever happened to the queen.
De-tigerification.
Yeah, and there's some weird characters, like it's kind of like Tom Bombadil-ish from Lord of the Rings. The books, not the movie.
Right, yeah. No, I'm aware. I know Tom.
Well,
We're
some
friends.
of the nerds out there might not know, okay?
I feel like the nerds would know if you want to insult us like that.
Yeah, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings guy, so. But there's a character very much like that shows up and then disappears, and it's just like, okay, well, I have all these empty threads and nothing's been explained. I kind of have the context, but I still don't really have a reason to care about any of this. And I feel like the main character, the young female soldier, is not very consistent with how she acts and what she says. So it's just very all over the place. It might get better with the second issue, but I don't think I'm going to continue reading. It just didn't grab me at all. And quite frankly, there's just so much good stuff out there right now. It's,
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, exactly. But, maybe I'll come back to it one day. We'll see. The next books I read were The Highest House. I want to say this is also Image. I might be mistaken. Watch the YouTube video. I'll put it on the screen if I'm wrong. But Highest House, number 1 and number 2. These books were great. I really, really enjoyed these. They drew me in with their cover art when I first saw them, and I finally got around to reading them, obviously. And the content inside is very good. The basic premise, the basic setup is it's this kind of gritty, kind of dark agey type of book, dark age Europe type of place, but there's some kind of mythical elements. The world has a single deity that they worship. The great priestess or something, I don't know, something along those lines. And it's monotheistic now, but they established that there was multiple gods that were worshipped in the past and were real, like physically in the world existed. And they've all been kind of squashed out through wars and purges and, the typical type of, story. But the story revolves around this one child whose mother sells him into slavery to a slave trader in the first issue. So it gets to some pretty dark, serious topics right in the beginning, and she does it to get the money to basically take care of her other 3 kids who are not, sickly, and he's kind of sickly because he's malnourished. And then she also tries to sell his sister, who is blind or going blind, and the slave trader identifies that she's going blind. and says no, like clearly you're just trying to sell me broken goods to feed your kids or whatever, and was about to send her off, but he notices something particular about the son. And they don't know who the father is because it's kind of implied that the mother is like the local prostitute. So the boy is sold into slavery to this wealthy kind of, I don't want to say he's the Mandarin, but he looks like the classic Mandarin.
Oh, no.
He looks a lot like the Mandarin.
Looks like that.
How many rings does he have?
Quite a few.
Oh.
And he's also maybe magical.
Oh,
Wow.
God.
But I'll elaborate that on.
It's like, did we pull a villain from fucking Flash Gordon? I feel like we pulled that fucking villain from Flash Gordon.
But it really is a good book through and through, and you basically follow his story in this kind of weird slave environment where he's trying to stay out of trouble, and there's enforcers among the slaves that basically are in charge of the other slaves, that some are cruel, some are nice, some are doing their own thing, but there's also this kind of subplot to his personal history via his father,
Who is his dad? Yeah.
that's important to the storyline, and there's some supernatural things that go on towards the end of the first issue, and definitely in the second issue. And it's just really fun and really good. It gives, even though it deals with kind of dark material, the fact that your main protagonist is a young child gives it kind of the levity of, say, like a Hobbit book or something.
Okay.
And I hate to draw the Lord of the Rings analogies so much, but it's appropriate for this title.
Fucking nerd.
Oh,
It kind of has that seriousness and direness of like the Witcher series.
okay. Yeah, that's
With-
kind of like the feel I was feeling
Yeah.
universe-wise. That are like Westeros or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. And it kind of has the levity of the main character being kind of like a Bilbo Baggins type of thing, just kind of like a against the world, this smaller than life type of character that just, rises up to the occasion, or tries to when he can, within the limits of his society and whatever's going on around him. So I would highly recommend Highest House. That book has a great start on issue 1 and 2. Next one, The New Age of DC Heroes. I caught up on a few of the titles. Our Spider-Man Nightcrawler ripoff, Sideways.
Sideways.
With
God,
the worst
no.
name ever.
That's their hero name.
The hero name
Yeah.
is Sideways.
It's not even a noun
It's an adjective. Thank you.
that he tries to use for terrible puns.
Oh no.
It's pretty bad. So this book, I read issue 2 and 3. Further establishes that this is a Spider-Man / Nightcrawler ripoff by introducing a symbiote.
Oh, fun.
Now I don't
Really?
know. I don't know it's a symbiote, but there's a dark goop that comes from the Dark Knight's Metal universe, and because of Sideways ripping through time barriers and space barriers, that drops onto a duck and possesses a duck.
A duck?
And that's
Is
yes.
this also a Howard the Duck like ripoff? No,
Not
Okay.
yet.
It could be.
'Cause-
But if you were wondering if this is a Spider-Man ripoff, it's starting to feel more and more like it.
Oh, God, they
but-
even got the goop.
But much
is the
like the
goop's name?
Terrifics, it's well done.
oh,
It's done in a way that's fun and easy to read, and there's kind of funny moments, especially in issue 3, where he's in the hospital because he thought he could catch like a lamp pole and like stop his fall, and ended up just breaking his arm.
oh, jeez.
And then he teleports himself to the hospital, and he's in a mask and in a naked nightgown. And then a villain shows up, and he has to fight the villain with only his mask and the nightgown with his
All right,
butt
that's
and
fun.
stuff out the back. And he's just a young teenager, and like the first book, I think he's basically showing himself on YouTube Live, like.
Yeah,
Teleporting
geez.
from place to place,
Transparent hero.
showing off that he's a hero, and then this interdimensional dude just shows up and goes, "You're breaking space."
Please stop.
It's like literally his first word was stop.
But it's
Can I follow this guy? I want to read a comic about him.
Right?
so the name is really dumb. It feels like a Nightcrawler / Spider-Man ripoff, especially Spider-Man for the character.
Yeah,
things.
yeah, that's what.
But it is really enjoyable. The art is really good, and it's fun to read. So
It's a well executed rip.
I can't hate on it too much. Now, another well-executed rip, The Terrifics, which is basically a rip-off of the Fantastic Four with old DC characters and one new one.
And a big-ass almost Galactus thing.
Yeah. They literally go inside like a dead Galactus in the first
Wow,
issue.
okay.
Yeah, their Galactus is already dead on arrival.
It's really blatant.
That's convenient, I guess, at least.
Let's hope.
So this issue, number 2, it wasn't as good as the first issue, and I think it's because they're trying to pull too much on the Dark Knight's metal nonsense canon.
Oh.
We talked about it last episode, but I read through the Dark Knight's metal canon, and it's just nonsense. It's every piece of canon nonsense from the past, 20 years of Batman.
Oh, boy.
All shoved into one book. And it
You're going to make everything count with this one,
and
guys.
they tried to make, the new age of DC heroes build out of it, and it just doesn't work. It just, it actually, I think it actually makes it worse.
Oh, wow.
For these books, because they are written well and they have great artwork, but I think the
It's kinda
Terrifics
tied to this Garbo stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just burdened by this terrible canon that has been established in recent history.
All right, I got to point out, Emery has pulled up a picture of Sideways.
Yes.
That doesn't even sound like a person's name, but it is. Yeah, he's already in a black suit, but he's very much
He's blue Spider-Man.
He's bluish blackish Spider-Man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's Spider-Man.
I'm digging this giant face behind him, though. Is that the cop you were talking about?
Yes.
Ah, I love him even more.
The fucking space-time cop.
Yeah, he has a cool role in issue 2 and 3 too. So it really is worth looking those up.
All right, I might actually read that. That looks fun.
I just want him to show up and just continue to tell him, quit it. What you're doing is terrible.
Oh, his name is Tempest Fugonaut. Probably Fusionaut, but
Yeah. Tempest Fugonaut.
That's
That,
great.
that sounds less like a name and more like a title, but let's roll with it.
That would be a better superhero name than Sideways.
Yes.
Yes, it would.
Maybe he'll change his name.
Putting that out there. And then the final book from the New Age of DC Heroes that I read this past week, Immortal Men #1, has finally come out, and
Yeah.
6 months late
6 months. Yeah, that was quite
because
the
Jim
fucking
Lee
delay.
is just stretched way too far. And I think it shows in this book. I think this is one of the worst books that Jim Lee has drawn.
Really?
And I hate to say that, but the characters and the art looks terrible in the book and on the cover. It's a rough book, and I honestly believe, especially with all the delays and all the compounding evidence of all the other Jim Lee titles that keep getting delayed, that they're just overworking him, and it's making everything else around him suffer.
They're forcing him to shit stuff out,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate because Jim Lee is normally really
He's top tier comic artist. It's really disappointing and sad for me as a fan, because he is such a wonderful talent, and just he has such a great legacy, both with Marvel, DC, and his own company and his own stake in Image.
Yeah.
That he founded with Todd McFarlane and several others.
Okay.
But yeah, it was really disappointing, which sucks because it was the one that I wanted to see the most when they announced the whole new age of DC Heroes. The writing, the story could come out to be fine, but really nothing happened. The dialogue felt really awkward and not right. It just felt artificial and very forced. And the parents say things that I've never heard any parent say ever. There's some really awkward choices in the writing and the art. I'm sorry, Jim. I love you, but it is not your best work. It is really rough to read. The faces just look weird. The bodies are just really disproportionate. Eyes look crooked in scenes, and it's just really noticeable.
Do you know how much he's doing right now?
I know he's doing Immortal Men. I know he's been doing alternative covers for just about everything.
All right.
He did some Superman stuff recently. He's one of the creative directors at DC with Jeff Johns. He's got a ton of
Just
stuff.
too much work.
Plus his independent work with an Image and his stake in Image and everything. So I'm sure he's just constantly busy, and I know he does a daily YouTube channel. It's
Oh,
like
wow.
several
Oof.
hours long where he shows you how to do stuff. I'm like, you're spending like 2-3 hours doing that, and I'm
At
like,
least, yeah.
what are you doing? Like, you have an actual job. But I just think he's overworked. I don't know if it's him doing it to himself or the company just trying to stretch him too thin, but I think his art is starting to really suffer for it. And I mean, you can look at his variants for the Dark Knight's Metal books. Like, the first one he did was great. And then you can see just a decline in quality of all his variant covers all the way to the last issue of Dark Knight's Metal there. And I think he's just stretched too thin. Maybe he's got a hand injury or something. I don't know, but I feel like he's not putting out his best work right now. And that wraps up all the New Age of DC Heroes ones. Let's see here. Make sure I got everything. Yeah, with that, let's jump into our latest segment, Did the Content Match the Drapes? This is our weekly segment where we talk about did previous covers and variant covers of the week have content as good on the inside as the outside. I have a lot of them this week, so stick with me. The biggest one, Aquaman. I read
Oh my God.
34 issues of Aquaman
Oh, wow.
in 1 week. Famously, I am a huge Aquaman apologist, and specifically New 52 Aquaman and onward, because his book is genuinely great. Especially post New 52. I really like how they reframed his character. I have always hated the hook hand, like douchey king, that never lived on land and doesn't have any kind of human characteristics. He's just a big
I have to rule over 75% of the earth.
And he talks.
What do you do daily?
He talks like a goofy Thor, ye shall step back from the throne of Atlantis. I hate that version of Aquaman so much. I really hate it. So I was genuinely impressed and relieved when they brought back the old Arthur Curry Aquaman, who is human and grew up as human, and found out he was Atlantean later in life, that his mother was the queen of Atlantis.
Boy who was figuring himself out in Mercy Reef.
Yeah. So if you haven't read the New 52 arcs, they're really good. They're worth reading. It's basically him coming to terms with the fact, and then Throne of Atlantis is basically the overarching story that involved the Justice League and his brother Orm, and the kind of conflicts between the surface world and Atlantis, and his kind of divide between the worlds, trying to save everybody from killing each other. And the first several issues of the new Aquaman post Convergence, which again, dumbest event ever. I hated it so much. I can't express to you how much I hated that. Are you familiar with
No,
what
I was
happened?
about to ask for me or anyone else who may not know Convergence.
If you are not familiar with what happened during
Big dumb
Convergence,
event.
now
I do love big dumb events.
Marvel had its own version of this with the second Secret Wars.
Yeah.
The second one.
Which, again, these companies rip off each other constantly. So
Yeah.
they did the same event, basically back to back.
Which was really fucking staggering to watch happen.
Yeah. And ironically, they're both doing their new fresh takes at the same time, too.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, they very much rip each other off. But
Yeah.
DC's version of this event, which again is very similar to the Marvel one, basically people, all the fanboys that were crying about the things they didn't like about the New 52 changes, like Superman's red underpants that got removed for just blue pants, so he looked like a normal fucking human being.
Hey, man, sometimes you need red underpants.
Come
All
on.
right.
Kryptonian overpants.
Whoa.
Grant Morrison.
You get that weird trippy Grant Morrison bullshit out of here.
Wait, is that
But
at one point canon?
Well, it was specifically a separate story called, I believe it was Superman All-Star?
Okay.
All-Star
not,
Superman.
All-Star
Not
Superman.
super underpants.
The Kryptonian overpants was Grant Morrison's hot take on what he thinks should be a justification of why he wore them on the outside.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
It's
So,
like,
but
it's a Krypton thing. You wouldn't
Yeah.
understand.
yeah. And
Well,
there's
he wouldn't understand.
You know?
so basically there was
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
the main books is what there was a handful of issues about, and most of them kind of aggravated me as a DC fan because most of the complaints were, oh, it's not lighthearted enough like Marvel. Do it like Marvel. Why aren't there more lighthearted stuff like Marvel? Why won't you tackle more social issues and introduce more diversified versions of the main character like Marvel? And so these complaints kept coming and kept coming and kept coming from a very small pool of people that are allowed on social media. And eventually I think DC caved, and that's what Convergence became.
Okay.
And Convergence took all the previous versions of these characters that were liked
And converge to them.
and put them in the same goddamn universe and had some conveniently die off, like Superman. The new 52 version of Superman was the one that received the most complaints.
So he's dead now?
People didn't like that he wasn't like a stand-up good boy scout for everything anymore. Now he had some complexity. He was a little, not gritty, but he wasn't always like the pinnacle of good behavior,
They humanized him,
Yeah.
or in this case, maybe a little overly.
They made him a
humanized him.
little less than Jesus, and they toned his powers down a little bit. But people, Superman fanboys, couldn't have it. It's all or nothing with Superman. So they killed the new version of Superman and brought back the old version with his kid and his wife Lois, whereas the new 52 one had a thing with Wonder Woman. So there was several incidents like that. They brought back the hook hand Aquaman. And they have. I'm pretty sure they still have several versions of Nightwing,
Just around.
just around, leading different teams.
Oh, wow.
And I have no idea which one's which, or which
This
one's connected to
is
which. It's extremely confusing.
Sort of ongoing? Like the events, it's not all resolved? We're not down to one version of each person?
No.
Oh,
no,
God.
No. And you see that with Marvel, with all the different versions of Wolverine, and they have the original X-Men with the modern versions of the original X-Men. It's the same thing on both, and it's very confusing and very awful for new fans especially. And anybody who's trying to get back into the main canon books, it's the worst.
Yeah.
It really is the worst. But Convergence did this basically just to pacify the ones that were bitching on social media about the risks they were taking with New 52. Meanwhile, they're completely ignoring that books like Swamp Thing and Aquaman and Batman and Animal Man were fucking evolutionary. Like, just fucking awesome.
That was one thing I forgot to mention. I had actually read Animal Man.
That book is great.
Right?
The new 52 Aquaman is phenomenal. They
Oh
had
my
Justice
God.
League International, which was phenomenal. They had Green Lantern, New Guardians, which features Kyle Rayner leading a team of different colored lanterns because he's become a White Lantern and is trying to recruit like different people to help him solve a certain issue. I won't spoil it for you because I want you to read it. It's still great if you go back and read Green Lantern New Guardians. They had tons of great artwork. They brought characters back like Martian Manhunter. They gave Manhunter, which is one of my favorite DC characters. They gave Static
good.
Shock his own book.
Oh, nice.
Which is something they needed to do for a long time. They took a lot of chances, and sure, they missed on a handful of books, but that's a given when you release 52 new books in a brand new launch. That's a lot of books and a lot of artists and a lot of writers that you're taking chances on, and I think they had way more hits than misses, and Convergence just completely threw that all away and brought all of these characters together and just mushed them, and it was really disappointing. So that's the overall arc there. So this run of Aquaman is where I picked up, and our very first episodes, I want to say cover of the week. It was the very first cover of the week, cover done by Stepan Sajic, was Aquaman number 26 of this new run.
Yeah.
And this cover was awesome. I think we named it our cover of the year. Did we not?
I think
for
we did.
2017.
Yeah.
This cover is awesome. I love Stepan Sajic's work. He's just an awesome artist. If you're not familiar with his work, he kind of gets a bad rap because he's worked on some kind of sexy comics.
Little smutty.
Was it Sunstone?
Yes. Yeah.
Sunstone is this web comic that became a collected volume, and then he's he worked on the old kind of exploitative Witchblade and several other works, but he's a fantastic artist, and it doesn't detract from his talent. And when he does stuff that isn't kind of smutty, like, it's still great. And even stuff that is smutty, like Sunstone, is a great read. I really, if you're comfortable with reading about S&M and stuff, and like those kind of relationships between characters, it is a good read. It's a fun read. With a lot of good writing and good humor. And Stepan Sajic's his
very sexy artwork.
Yeah. And his artwork in this book, when he starts his run, which I think is in the 20s, is where Stepan Sajic runs in, and I think Dan Abnett starts around the same time. I don't remember who the other writer is. Up to that point, the books were really kind of disappointing. They kind of backtracked into that overly dramatic, like king-like Aquaman. Didn't have the hook hand, thankfully.
Well, that's good.
Like,
or the goatee beard, long
Lord
hair
of the
thing
Rings
going.
Oh, that like golden
Game of
mullet.
Thrones-ish.
Yeah. But it still had the same basic premise from the New 52, and it was still kind of building off it, even if it was kind of backtracking a little bit, which I was disappointed with. But once Dan Abnett stepped in for the writing, you saw a completely different side of Aquaman, and I think we are in the middle of probably the best storyline that Aquaman has ever had, and one of my favorite storylines from DC in probably 10 years. It was great to catch up, and again, his Dan Abnett's royal run starts around the 20s, I think.
Okay.
And yes, just to give you clarification before we really get into it, all of the Aquaman books I'm about to mention match the drapes.
Okay.
That's good. The content for this particular story run is great. The artwork is great. And there's a little bit of disappointment for me because Stepan Sajic didn't do the full run. It changes over to Federici, I think Riccardo Federici, on the second half of it. And then there's one issue, I think it's 34, where it goes to some completely different artist that is not qualified to stand next to Federici and Stepan Sajic. I'm sorry, his work was just cartoony and sloppy and didn't match the levity of the story.
Okay.
And it really, really showed. I thought it was at its best when Stepan Sajic was doing his thing because I thought the characters were more expressive and very... I don't know. There's a specific character that relies on body language, and he's an expert at portraying body language and facial language. Stepan Sajic just knocked it out of the park, and Dan Abnett's story there is really great. It's kind of like if you took Aquaman, who is grounded, and gave him a storyline akin to like Game of Thrones.
Oh, that'd be fun.
And kind of like Empire Strikes Back from Star Wars. It's like a weird mixture of really great content and really great concepts. And you see him get reduced from this kind of inherited royalty down to basically a bottom dweller, both figuratively and literally, in this book. And it's really cool because now he's seeing the parts of Atlantis he hadn't seen before, and the people in Atlantis that are kind of pushed aside because they've been adapted in ways that don't look human. Like,
okay.
You have the people with like mutations that look like, they have scales, or maybe they are crab-like or something. Crab people.
I knew you were going to do that.
Yeah, it was coming.
Walk like crab, but talk like people.
But he sees a whole new dynamic, and he sees this criminal underbelly that has been well served by ignoring the royal families. And there's like different precincts around Atlantis. And I don't want to give it away, but there's reasons he's trapped there, and there's reasons he has to hide that he's the king and stuff. And so he adapts the identity of the hook hand Aquaman.
Oh, okay, that's fun. I like that. That's creative.
It was a really cool use by Dan Abnett of the classic, like, ridiculous 90s Aquaman, but in a way that made real sense and actually gave it heart and gave it levity. And he has to kind of like regain his confidence, and his future wife Mara is on the outside looking in for, again, reasons I don't want to spoil. trying to help him, and we even see Aqualad take a break from the Teen Titans to come help out.
Oh, nice.
And this is a really cool version of Aqualad, by the way. So just all around, it is a great book. I was disappointed with the changing of the artists. I'm hoping that the artist that was on the last issue isn't on the next issue. I think I looked ahead, and I think it goes back to Federici, which is a good thing. I have to spell out this dynamic. Stepan Sajic has a very expressive, cool, but really well detailed. Very
You've got to pull it up on the
based
screen
on the
there,
covers.
and it's
very
it's quite good. Yeah,
very detailed kind of paint style.
yeah.
Federici is also very detailed and painty, but it's more like regal. It's more like something you'd see in like a really old like fairy tale book.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
Again, really like well defined, but everybody's like very square jawed and regal and just I don't know. It just wasn't as light as I would like based on what had been built up to that point with some of the characters. But it's just great, and it's kind of like a love letter to both the past and the present of Aquaman, and in the best way possible.
That's good.
And I'm hoping that the art doesn't keep fluctuating because it's really jarring when you're in the middle of a great story and the art just suddenly changes drastically.
Yeah.
And you're trying to like readjust your brain to the new kind of expressive art style because the characters feel different when the art is different.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't express that enough. The writing can be exactly the same and have the same kind of dialogue levity or lack thereof. But if the characters' expressions on the canvas aren't the same, it really is jarring initially. And it was never more apparent than issue 34. Issue 34, it helped build like a side portion of the story to lead into the final arc, I think. And I think that's the only reason why they had a guest artist.
Yeah.
I think it was just like a guest artist role, but it was so jarring and so out of place. It was like if you went from this, Aquaman cover number 26 and you went to SpongeBob, that's how drastic it was.
I mean, I'd read/watch that, but
that's how drastic the art jump was.
Oh, wow.
To super realistic and beautiful and stunning and regal to just cartoony and awful and undetailed and flat, and it just didn't look good. So Aquaman number 26, our first cover of the week. Then Aquaman number 33. Ricardo Federici stepped in by then.
That is a good one, too.
And then Dan Abnett also wrote those issues, obviously. Again, just a great storyline, great arc. And again, they play on the goofy, like, 90s Aquaman, which is why he has the long hair and the beard. He's using it to hide his identity.
That is super fun. I think that's a good way to, like, do callbacks, basically, to the past.
Absolutely.
But, like, have it actually make sense.
Now, how you don't do it is like Dark Knight's Metal, where you just assume that the whole story arc where Batman gets shot by Omega beams and goes into the distant human past and becomes a caveman.
Oh, yeah, the cave bat.
And fights through cave time and the tribes of man to get back to the present time somehow. And that is a key premise for Dark Knight's Metal. Without that storyline, Dark Knight's Metal does not exist.
So you remember when I was a caveman?
Yeah. So there's a whole tribe dedicated to cave bats. I'm not joking. It's a primary premise of the main story of Dark Knight's Metal, and the only reason why these creatures somehow find a way into our world in the first place. It is awful.
I both love and hate that, actually.
I love Scott Snyder, but it is the worst thing I've ever read from him, and I love almost everything he's ever written. It is easily the weakest thing he's ever written. So, I don't want to be too harsh, but it was so jarring and awful, and I just really didn't enjoy it. So, again, Aquaman number 33 and 26 did definitely match the drapes on episode 1 and episode 24. Another one I caught up on was on episode 27. We had 2 covers of the week there. The regular cover was the Damnation Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider number 1, which Emery can talk about with me now.
Oh yes.
This one, the cover was by Clayton Crane, and it was written by Christopher Sabella, and it illustrated by Phil Noto.
That is a very good cover, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just going to go on record to say that Clayton Crane has mastered what it takes to draw Johnny Blaze.
Yeah, he killed it. I mean, I feel like that would be on my Trapper in middle school.
Oh yeah.
That's the
Jeez.
type of thing I would have carried around.
That's so fucking edgy and metal and fucking badass.
Yeah. But
Oh.
content inside, what'd you think, Emery?
I've got to say this is probably this is something that I never thought I would see in a Ghost Rider comic, like ever, but they managed to pull it off quite nicely.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
To just lay out the premise.
Yeah, you've got me on the edge.
Yeah,
Gotta-
this is a tie-in from the ongoing Damnation event.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a lot of tie-ins.
Yeah.
There's the Doctor Strange Damnation book. There's the regular Doctor Strange book, which is tie-ins. There's the Iron Fist tie-in book.
Okay.
There's the...
I think the Falcon also maybe had a tie-in.
Yeah, there might be, because there's Justice League, or not Justice League, the Avengers, the current Avengers,
Right.
in there, and I don't know if their books tie in or not. And then obviously there's the Ghost Rider, which we're talking about now. There's a lot of tie-in books, so that's one thing I hate about the industry, but it's such a good book. It's worth seeking all of these issues out and
Oh, wow.
trying
Yeah.
to keep up with what's going on.
Yeah, if you're going to do a big event, please just let it be well written. That's all I ask.
That's important.
Yeah.
That's the core core detail of importance there.
Oh yeah.
If it's hard to find, so be it.
Yeah.
With that said, what you need to know before going into this book is that we're at the point in the story where Wong and his merry band of misfits.
Is the dog part of this group?
Yes, the
Yes.
dog is part of this group.
He told me about the dog earlier. It is my favorite character.
Oh yeah,
Ghost dog.
Bat's the ghost dog.
Hell yeah.
Who is strong enough to possess a person who's already possessed by a spirit of vengeance.
He's got a double possess.
Yes. Like he basically overrides.
Yes, I like it.
Oh my
Good.
god, he's so much fun.
He's a good boy.
And the dog's funny. The dog has words. But yeah, that team aside, we get to the point in the plan where it involves Ghost Rider, Johnny Blaze confronting Mephisto.
Who is basically Marvel's version of the devil,
Yeah.
if you're not familiar.
Yeah, Mephisto, Marvel's version of the devil, is confronted by Ghost Rider, and then before a fight happens, Mephisto decides to, instead of actually just fighting him straight up, he lifts the curse that's been on him this whole time. Just so, probably for shits and giggles, he can kick him out of a fucking window that's God knows how many stories up.
Hell yeah.
And...
Hell yeah.
That's awful.
It is. It's
Yeah,
very
the-
bad.
You're never coming back.
I've been banned. Oh boy.
The hell yeah actually comes after he's been sent to hell.
Again.
This is actually, as you learn a page or two in, part of the plan.
Oh, okay.
Which is kind of a spoiler for the main book. Because
Kind-
you don't realize that when he goes up to the tower and confronts
Ah.
him. You think, you're shocked. You're like, oh, fuck. Ghost Rider didn't expect that. And then the tie-in book's like, oh, he expected it.
He knew.
Like, not only did he expect that, but Mephisto played straight into it.
I gotta say, you were reading this earlier, and I was looking over your shoulder, and I just love Mephisto's design. He just looks like the biggest asshole, and I love it.
Like, imagine, like, Shades of Red Vegeta.
Yes.
But, like,
Ooh,
a snarky...
chef's kiss.
A snarky casino asshole.
Yeah.
I also love that he just stole Vegas.
Yes.
He
It
was
sounds like
he
fun.
was pissed that Doctor Strange brought Vegas back from this apocalyptic type event or whatever happened,
Yeah.
and decided he was going to come back with it.
Yeah. It's like, you're going to bring them back? Oh, I'm going to come back too.
Hey, I already claimed this one. I already
Las
said
Vegas
keepers.
is mine.
But yeah,
No, like, overarching, like, subtext needed for this one.
Yeah.
Hmm.
and he kind of plays on Doctor Strange's,
His need to be a hero.
need to be in charge of everything and ahead of everything to, gamble.
Oh, yeah.
But it's really great. It's a great story all around.
Yeah, it does actually have me interested.
this
I might
issue-
read this one.
Yeah.
Without spoiling it any more than we already have.
Yeah.
Did the content match the drapes?
Yes.
Hell yeah, it did. Hell
Every
yeah.
time. Hell yeah.
Oh God, please
All-
stop.
Finger
Only for
guns.
Ghost Rider.
We're gonna throw some winks.
You're killing me.
Only for Ghost Rider.
So you'll go to hell,
Yeah.
and then you'll become a Ghost
Well,
Rider,
damn.
and then you'll be able.
You already condemned me.
Well, I feel like this is part of the plan.
Yeah.
You go to hell and,
I meat
enact
bats.
the plan.
Yeah, I just want to hang out with a dog. So
Ghost dog.
sorry.
But yeah, this is a great issue. Like if you're not keeping up with this damnation line and you just want something quick and easy to read, like these are the books to pick up because they're probably still available.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you can probably still find them physically, and it's just a fun storyline overall, and it plays with a lot of characters that don't get a lot of love, including Blade.
Blade, who I'm always going to go on a rant on this. There is no reason why anyone, let alone Blade, should have been reduced to a Cosby sweater wearing delivery boy for all of the other characters that we're shining a light on.
What?
I don't
What is this in?
I don't know.
He became a soccer player, and then he became a weird sweater-wearing teacher for
Yeah.
a bunch of school kids.
Yeah,
there's
it's
some rough
it's
arts.
gross. They fucking neutered him
They destroyed him.
instead of letting him kill vampires.
We
That's
ran out
not
of
that
vampires.
hard.
But he didn't go to jail for tax evasion.
Was that a plot line?
Should have been.
I would read that.
Ooh, real life parallels.
Wesley
I'm
Snipes.
so sorry.
Don't do
okay.
it. Don't do it. Stop. We need you back.
But yes. Report your taxes.
Fun fact, Wesley Snipes wanted to be the first Black Panther
Oh.
Yeah.
prior to today's Marvel Universe.
Fun fact number 2, it is the 16th, which means tax day was yesterday.
Oh.
Sorry, Wesley.
Actually, technically, it's the 17th this year.
Tax day is the 17th? I always thought it was the 15th.
Normally it is. I don't know why they extended it, but yeah.
Well, good. You got time. Get on it.
You have tomorrow.
This probably won't be released by then, but
Yeah. Or
So-
yesterday, for all of those watching.
sorry, guys.
Yeah.
We're running long in the tooth here, so
All right.
A little bit.
let's push the train on along a little bit.
The ghost train.
Enough tax jokes.
Enough tax jokes.
The
it
other
was great.
The other cover of the week we had was Bloodborne #2 from Titan Books. This one covered by Peter Kowalski, written by Alice Cott, and illustrated by Peter Kowalski. And I love Bloodborne, the video game.
Yeah.
So I was all about diving into this. I read issue 1 and issue 2. Again, the variant for Bloodborne issue 2 was our variant of the week, and
Spooky.
it was just awesome.
Okay.
The interior of the book, the art is still very good, but the writing, you are going to be completely fucking lost if you have not played the entirety of Bloodborne. If you have not beaten Bloodborne, you are going to be so fucking lost and confused.
Oh,
And you'll be kind of
no.
interested, but you'll be very, very fucking confused. So I would not recommend Bloodborne
Until
as
after you've done your
content
homework.
until after you've played the game fully. And I would probably say that anyway, but
Yeah,
even
I
if
mean-
it didn't require the game, because the game is good.
You should play Bloodborne. You should read this, but only after you've played Bloodborne.
Does that mean I'm not skilled enough to read this comic? Because I tried, and I'm bad.
That game, once you figure out how the game really works, it's not
Oh.
nearly as much of a struggle as most people think.
Yeah, learn visceral attacks real early. Go on YouTube, learn how to do them properly. I went through almost the entire game without knowing how to do them properly, and it was fucking hard. And then I found out visceral attacks are actually not what I thought they were.
Oh,
Right.
And then
I've
I learned
never
how to
even
do
heard the
them
phrase.
properly, and it turns out that makes the game way easier.
Yeah.
Way like
it's
you can one
basically
shot you can one-
staggering
yeah.
people.
Oh, nice.
You
So
can
it's
one hit kill like a lot of things.
Yeah, that's the entire point of that game is
Okay.
to learn
Yeah.
how to hit someone while they're about to hit you.
Oh, okay.
That's almost entirely what the gun's for.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I like the gun.
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of really cool surprises that happen. I haven't played the Dark Souls because I played a few, and they're just so slow and boring to me. I know people love them, but Bloodborne was more fast-paced. It was kind of like if you took Dark Souls and Devil May Cry and put them
okay.
together.
I'm actually
Yeah.
going to go on record in saying Bloodborne actually, once you figure that out, teaches you how to play Dark Souls.
I got it because I really like the aesthetic. I am all about that spooky stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
it's really good.
it's very pretty.
Definitely worth it. And I think it was it free on PlayStation Plus
It
not
was.
too long ago?
Yeah.
So-
Sony, please support us.
We take advisors. But it's okay. I don't think you necessarily need to read it. It's setting up for a decent story. The whole first issue just basically introduces you to this world again and illustrates that the things that happen in the game still happen in the book. Like you still die and you go to the hunter's dream.
Okay.
And you have some conversations with the characters in the Hunter's Dream. Again, I don't want to spoil too much because I want you to play the game, and these are nice surprises.
Well,
from
I
the game.
certainly died.
But there's some conversations with some specific characters you have, and then you go back and instead of starting from scratch, but everything's kind of still established. You like relive the dream from the beginning. So every time he dies, he goes back to the start and has to redo everything he just did, including going back into the town and meeting the other hunters and setting up the story with a specific like child character, which has the pale blood they call. So
The Pale Blood.
the pale blood.
Ooh, spooky.
But it's good. But don't read it unless you've already read the blood or played the Bloodborne game. Excuse me.
Play the Bloodborne.
I think that's all did the content match the Drapes books. Just to build off those real quick, I read Mera, Queen of Atlantis, which spins off of the current storyline in Aquaman, which again is probably my favorite characterization of Aquaman to date and my favorite story to date. I hate the whole Atlantis court intrigue thing. In the past, I've always thought it was goofy and like the whole like how they got to speak in like old English, you know,
That's how you speak in a royal
to remind
court.
you that this is a ancient society, you know. I just hate that they don't adapt, especially when they already have contact with the surface world.
Right.
It's just goofy and just not palatable to me. But this version is really great and really. Dan Abnett is doing a great job, and he needs to just never leave that book.
Well, I think you've sold me. I was never a fan of Aquaman.
Yeah.
But I like the description you're giving it, so I might check it out.
Yeah,
It
if
sounds
you're
good.
interested, I would say just look up a Wikipedia or something for what's happened up to his start.
Right, just start with
and then
Abnett.
and start with Dan Abnett's run.
Okay.
And I think it starts in the 20s. I think it's like early 20, 21, maybe 19, somewhere in that range. You'll recognize it immediately because the art goes from like really kind of bad and cartoony to Stepan Sajic like pristine and just fucking
Yeah,
amazing.
it was quite good, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But the Mera, Queen of Atlantis book spins off of a spoiler for the main storyline, so I won't go too far
Gotcha.
into it. But it focuses on Mera dealing with some struggles on the surface world. And the second issue in particular was pretty cool because it kind of humanized his brother Orm, who has taken up a secret role on the surface world since he escaped from authorities. And
Or Marius. That guy.
he actually has kind of a cool arc going on in this Mera book. And surprisingly enough, Mera isn't the most interesting character in her own book. It's Orm, who is Aquaman's brother, his half-brother, who
Interesting.
was previously the king of Atlantis before the Throne of Atlantis storyline where he attacks the surface world. So it's very, very cool, and I really liked it. And it plays off of my favorite storyline for Aquaman in the New 52, which is Throne of Atlantis. So there's a lot of really good, like, well-tied-in canon there, unlike Dark Knight's Metal. So Mera, Queen of Atlantis, very good books. As long as you've read up to that point in Aquaman for the Dan Abnett line. And then the final book I read, oh, man, that's a lot of books.
Yeah.
Domino #1, because I love my girl Gail Simone.
Oh, yeah?
Gail Simone is probably my favorite female creator. Maybe Santa Takeda, as an artist is up there, but I think Gail Simone is probably my favorite writer, female writer in comics today. And Domino #1, it was okay. It was interesting. I've never really cared about Domino to begin with, so it's kind of a hard sell for me already. And I'm not a Marvel guy like you are, so maybe you would enjoy it a little bit more.
It's like already you're trying to read a book, while probably well written, about a person whose only power is luck, and
I like that power. Okay.
I mean,
and Gail uses it to good degree.
Yeah,
that name's really familiar.
It's used
I'm
well.
terrible with names. What else has Gail Simone done?
She did a really good run of Red Sonja. She did the new 52 Batgirl, which brought back Barbara Gordon, which is awesome. It is the best Barbara Gordon there's ever been. Period.
Yeah.
And it got ruined when they changed her costume and made her cartoony and moved her to the suburbs, and then that sleeps around with people and fights criminals, which are basically just students in the suburbs of Gotham.
That doesn't.
It's awful.
And
she loses her high-tech bat costume that Batman gave her and decides to wear a leather purple jacket with bright yellow gloves. And
it's an odd choice.
And they took this character that Gail Simone had rebuilt, both figuratively and literally.
Yeah,
because her spine was rebuilt.
Oh, but yeah. I mean, guess that makes sense. Yeah.
But Barbara Gordon is supposed to be this brilliant,
yeah,
like well-rounded character with a cool dynamic with her mother who abandoned her and her father who's constantly on the job fighting crime in Gotham, and she's always a target to exploit against Gordon, both as Batgirl and as just Barbara Gordon. And it plays with all of those dynamics. Her brother is, has a lot of mental problems and is at times interpreted as like criminally insane and stuff because of the mother abandonment things and the trauma of always being the target of super criminals to use against Gordon, and there's just so many great threads and dynamics and lines, even like a little bit of the past history with Nightwing and how they kind of play that dynamic where, they're not together, but they still acknowledge that stuff happened, Gail Simone just did it perfectly, and the artwork was great too. Like it was fantastic. And when they changed her to this kind of ditzy, like college girl in the suburbs that wears this goofy purple outfit, and every time she's in a crossover, it looks horrible because everybody's in a cool like
superhero costume,
and she's in this goofy leather jacket with a yellow cape, and it looks awful. But she's done a lot of great work. She took a fan poll to see what character she should do, and Domino was the one that kept recurring, and she was like, I want to do Domino.
All right.
So she's tackling a hard character because it's not the character that's really well known or really well respected in any way.
Yeah.
And I think she's doing okay. It seems like it's building up to just be a generic, like, criminal organization hires mercenaries story, and we found you and we've targeted you because you targeted us. That kind of dynamic. Yeah. But there's some cool character moments, like it's her birthday, and there's a surprise birthday party for her, and like everybody shows up, like all the X-Men show up, and like some supervillains show up that she's worked for, and like Deadpool shows up and crashes the party, and all the typical stuff you'd expect. So it's a good book. It's fine. I don't care about Domino enough to like keep reading, so I'm probably not going to. But I love Gail Simone's writing. The dialogue's great. The art is really good. So if you like Domino or you're interested in supporting Gail Simone, that's a good book to pick up. So that is all the covers and the comics that we have read.
That was quite the catch up.
All the content did match the drapes for all those books, and oh my god, I read 34 books of Aquaman plus 2 books of Mera. Holy shit, that's a lot of Aquaman. And again, Highest House is probably my highest recommended book out of all of those. And I think with that, let's get into the news. All right.
What's the news?
First up, probably the most depressing piece of news out there. The whole Stan Lee drama that's been going on. I don't know if you guys are familiar.
I am not.
I've heard a little bit of it.
Well, basically, Stan Lee has been having significant issues with the people around him ever since his wife passed away, which I believe was last year.
Yeah.
Essentially, from what has been recently reported by friends of the family and basically past work associates and stuff, is that there's a weird power struggle going on. Stan Lee, while still being Stan Lee, is not in the best of health and is not necessarily 100% in tune with his faculties and his finances, which obviously needs about an army to manage. And it seems that his daughter, who is 67 years old...
Oh, wow.
And has been basically living on his dime her entire life, has been causing a lot of strife, along with some business partners and an unsavory lawyer or two. And basically, the allegations and the things that have been coming up in these different reports, the most notorious one being from the Hollywood Reporter, who is reporting on the basis of a handful of family members that witnessed what was going on in the household. Basically, Stan Lee needs, some assisted care, and it's not coming from his immediate family because his daughter is out spending all his money. And basically, before his wife died, his wife had pretty much handled all the finances and all the responsibilities and signing over, powers of attorney and, making sure that Stan Lee wasn't being exploited for all these things because he was so busy doing all the public appearances and, doing all these tours and being in the movies and all the stuff you expect from Stan Lee. Excelsior! But basically what has come to pass is that they have been exploiting the man and running him just ragged, and you can see it in recent pictures. You can see he's had to cancel several appearances and stuff, which were already way too many, especially for a man that's 95 years old.
Oh God, I always forget he's 95.
But it's really awful to hear. Basically, his daughter has been known to be just completely horrible with money, and she just spends every dime she gets. And Stan Lee and his wife built her a trust fund when she was very young to live on, but she kept spending all of the money in the trust fund and coming back to her parents and begging for a new property to live in because otherwise she'd be homeless, and begging for millions more dollars, and then she would just go out and spend it all again. She is 67 years old and still living that way, like fucking child, on her parents' dime and on this trust fund that keeps getting altered via power of attorney that she is influencing through the lawyer, this unsavory lawyer. So here are the characters that are at play. JC is the daughter. Jerry Olivares is a business partner. Kaya Morgan is a business partner. And the attorney is Kirk Schenk. And the allegations are arising against these four players. Some of them painted as JC, the daughter, being manipulated by the other three to get her father to do a ton of unsavory things and terrible things, including, but not limited to, making a business endeavor where they drew a bunch of blood from Stan Lee.
What?
Oh.
And then they mixed it with ink and made him sign with his own blood on all these comics so that they could sell them at a huge premium and make a ton of money for themselves, obviously. And these comics do exist. You can verify that this happened. And there's some...
I don't think I want a blood signed comic.
I would hope not. But there's just all of this stuff going on. There's a lot of rumors that he's not getting the care he needs, and when he does get sick with pneumonia and stuff, they're not allowing him to rest. They just keep forcing him on these tours, and he's just, for whatever reason, he's either not aware of it or he's just not able to comprehend what's going on because of maybe illness, maybe senility, whatever the case may be, or maybe just because his wife isn't there. He's just not used to having, to fear that mismanagement.
And
is
it's
taking
someone
place.
you would hope you could trust with your daughter.
Yeah,
you know?
your daughter and your longtime work associates and attorney. So there's all these allegations going on and all of this stuff, and even Kevin Smith weighed in on it, saying that he's seen some of this and he's noticed it, and he reached out to Stan Lee and invited him to come live with him, and to get away from all the nonsense that was going on there. And there's been threads popping up from people in the industry that more or less confirm it. Now, here's where there's a wrinkle. Recently, this past week, Stan Lee uploaded a video. Now, when I say Stan Lee uploaded a video, obviously one of his business associates uploaded the video. It was recorded by Olivares, I believe, and it was labeled as the property of Kaya Morgan, who is the other business partner that's been accused of doing very unsavory things. So this video, before I even give you the pretense of what he's been saying in the video, it's already being monetized by the unsavory business partner, and the video is being forced. And even directed in the video, because the Olivia Vars, I'm assuming, was the one behind the camera, and even in the video, he is telling Stan what to say.
Oh wow.
And Stan seems to have his faculties there, but I think he just can't comprehend that these people he's trusted for so long are untrustworthy when his wife isn't there to protect him.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of think is going on. But basically in the video, he alleges that, the allegations are false. He doesn't know where they're coming from. He says the people that are saying these things are very good friends and family members, and he doesn't understand why they would be saying these things about his daughter and blah blah blah, and he admits that there had been some issues in the past with his daughter, but they were better now than they'd ever been, and blah blah blah. And again, the guy behind the camera, which I'm assuming is Olivares, starts directing him and telling him what to say, which again makes me wonder, are they forcing him to do this?
Right, yeah.
And again, another thing that makes me kind of lose credibility here on the whole video context is that only a few days later, the lawyer filed his actual lawyer, not the Kirk Schenk, who is JC's lawyer. His personal lawyer filed abuse filings.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow.
In protection of Stanley against several of these people, including his daughter.
Seems pretty conclusive.
It seems to me that they are trying to counter it by forcing him to do these things, but I think there's just no one to take him out of that situation, because it is his immediate family member that's primarily a player in this, whether she's doing it wittingly or whether she's being coaxed into doing it by the business partners and the lawyer there. So my heart goes out to Stanley. I hope the best for him. I hope the situation gets amended before, he's just too weak and feeble and worn out to, enjoy what's left of his life. So it's just really sad, because he's such a big icon and probably the biggest icon in comics overall.
Honestly,
I would say, and it's just really gross. The 67-year-old adult woman can't take care of herself, and she's still literally draining the blood from her father just to get a dime, It's just really disgusting. And if the allegations are completely true, it's disgusting. And it shows you how far, your humanity can be lost if perhaps not nurtured properly. And, so I'll leave that as it is. Choose to believe what you want to believe, but
what I want to believe or what seems more reasonable, because I don't want to believe any of that, even if it does seem like it's probably true.
Whatever helps you sleep at night. Yeah. That's what I would say. Because
none of that.
None of us can really stop it.
I know. That's just awful.
So, God, that still weirds me out. A 67-year-old woman cannot take care of herself. And not for health reasons, but because she just simply doesn't want to. Next up, this is a big news item I think Emery will enjoy. Sean Gordon Murphy has set a set of rules for any potential Batman White Knight universe post the final issue.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So we might get our wish.
Oh, shit, boy.
We might get more. Let me elaborate here.
Yes, please.
He said, quote, DC informally calls it the Murphyverse. If I do a sequel and set up my own rules in White Knight, here are my promises to the reader. He tweets, 1, when someone dies, they stay dead.
I like that. That's
period.
Good.
2, every book comes out on time, which he, amidst all of the DC delays, his is the only book I can think of that has come out on time. So
consistently.
He's kept his word.
Yeah.
3, no narration balloons unless it's a voiceover in a flashback, which I haven't noticed, but that's cool.
Yeah.
4, no excessive amounts of variants to burden comic shops.
That's good.
What have we been harping on? Sean Gordon Murphy saved DC from themselves.
Please.
He's the only one not doing fucking coke every day. At most, there will be 2, the main cover and the variant for the super passionate collector. 5, there will be at least 1 awesome vehicle in each book.
Okay.
Yes.
Which is run for the par there. And 6, no complicated tie-ins to other series or events White Knight will be easy to get into, whether you read comics or not.
Hey, nice.
Yes, save us. Save us, Sean Gordon Murphy.
Oh, you
No.
brilliant, beautiful bastard!
Are you familiar with Batman White Knight right now?
Not at all. No.
It is a line. It's on the 7th issue right now. I think 8 is the next. Am I wrong?
Yeah, eight's
Eight
the
is-
next one.
8's the next one, and 8's the final issue.
Okay.
This is a singular story, not associated with the main canon.
Right, yeah.
It is the best Batman story ever.
Oh wow. Okay.
Period.
Literally.
I've never read a better Batman story.
I like all of his ideas and requirements for it, so
And
it sounds like it.
Again, it's the only book that's been on time. And we love like Mr. Miracle, which is another book that's not really tied to the mainline canon.
Yeah.
That focuses on a character you wouldn't think would be awesome, but in this book, it creates a world that's really cool and interesting with
Oh,
Mr.
yeah.
Miracle. But there's so many delays. There are so many delays.
Babies happened.
Oh well, yeah.
And then we had an actual comic book from the Mr. Miracle line that was just about having a baby.
Well,
Irony.
Way to write what you know.
But yeah, what do you think, Emery? You want to see more?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
intrigued by this.
I was like, how is that even a question?
If there is any like storyline that you should be reading as a person that's been out of comics for a while, Batman White Knight is the one to jump into.
All right. If
Doctor Strange Damnation, you kind of need a little context.
yeah.
Aquaman, obviously, you need a lot of context and a lot of like foresight.
Batman White Knight, you
Batman
can jump
White
in
Knight,
blind.
you can jump in right now, today, no problems.
I will look into
and
that,
it is
yeah.
easily the best Batman story I've ever read. Basic premise: through an altercation with Batman, Joker ends up getting a bunch of medication stuffed down his throat
Oh.
by Batman, who's beating the shit out of him.
Okay.
Like super brutal.
And it seems to change him back to a normal state. Like it,
Oh, wow. Okay.
it normalizes him back to, in this book, Jack Napier,
Yeah.
which is the Batman '89
Right.
version of Joker. But it's it's pretty cool. I don't want.
yeah, no spoilers. This
I
is
don't wanna
actually something
spoil
I
anything
want to
else.
read. I'm probably going to pick up.
There's a lot
that
of
sounds
very
really fun, though.
self-aware
Oh.
surprises in the book that
Okay.
kind of play on some of the gripes that DC fans have had for a while, and I think to a good end.
That's
And
part of why I sort of was never really that heavily into like superhero comics. Is a lot of, it seems like similar gripes.
Yeah.
So
there's-
if this is going to be good, I'll just jump into it.
it's awesome. You'll
Okay.
love it.
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
All right.
This is
I'll
the-
take that guarantee. I will let you know
This
what I think.
book manages to actually go back and take premises from like actually in one case like there's a premise from a Batman movie that he actually makes brilliant.
Huh. Okay.
It was like there's a really dumb Batman movie premise.
I want to know more.
What killed the
but you
dinosaurs?
Oh,
the Ice Age.
Allow me to break the ice.
Ah.
And now,
okay.
it's like this guy manages to actually write a decent story. Not even a decent story. This is literally the best Batman story ever told.
Okay.
That
Wow, that's
happens
a bold
to
claim.
that
Period.
happens to
Easily.
also include a giant ice cannon pointed at Gotham. I shit
okay.
you not. This is a silly premise
All right.
that's actually executed masterfully.
It's really good. My favorite
Okay.
thing is what they did with Harley, but I'll leave that.
Yeah.
there.
No.
Oh,
No
yeah,
spoilers.
yeah.
So good. So
Yeah.
we have been saying this literally every week on the podcast. If you're not reading Batman White Knight, you need to be reading Batman White Knight. Sean
Yes.
Gordon Murphy is writing the best thing he's ever written ever. I can't think of a single thing he's written or drawn that is better than what he's producing right now. It is so damn good.
Okay. You've convinced me. I
yeah.
am sold.
Just the way he plays all the character dynamics and everything. Just so good. Oh my god. I'll leave it at that because I could go on for hours. Next up, 21st Century Fox President Peter Rice informed employees the final acquisition by Disney will likely take place by the end of summer 2019. So you now basically have your date set. End of summer 2019. X-Men are on Marvel's side. Again,
Oh boy.
it's a long way to wait. And maybe
Summer
we'll
of
see
2019.
Summer
Hey,
of 2019.
I can watch it.
So maybe we'll see some X-Men in Infinity War Part 2. but I don't think we'll have any admixture unless it happens a little sooner than expected.
Yeah, probably not. I'm assuming this, like, X-Men, and also in this case the Fantastic Four, are going to be up. Hey, you shut it. You know, I came up with a brilliant idea for the Fantastic Four.
Yes, we discussed this.
Yeah,
It was good.
yeah.
Cite previous episodes of the podcast. 28 probably.
Yeah,
28 or 29.
Yeah, 28 or 29. With the X-Men and the Fantastic Four finally entering into the fold, and by that I mean finally being reacquired as we're winding down all of these things that we've been working on for 10 fucking years. We now get to have the X-Men that we deserve. We finally get to have the Fantastic Four that we need, that we've needed for...
Any Fantastic Four
yes,
movie?
any Fantastic Four movie. Name one. It's bad.
Yeah.
I like most of the X-Men movies, so I think Fox did okay.
Yeah. I believe that.
Logan, the Wolverine.
Logan was quite good,
X1,
actually.
X2, Days of Future Past, First Class. You know, there was like 3 bad ones in there.
Moving on.
I feel like you wanted to say more, Emery.
He just can't get over the jet suits.
Oh, God, it's fine.
It's such a small thing.
One of the biggest reasons why
Oh,
I
and
like
Deadpool counts.
Oh, no.
Deadpool, yes.
Oh, that counts? Oh, good Deadpool. Sorry, I'm thinking...
Yeah, good Deadpool.
yeah.
Not terrible
Yeah,
Wolverine
I was like,
Origins one. That was one of the 3. That was one of the
Okay.
3.
All right.
Yeah. Wolverine Origins, X3, and Apocalypse.
Apocalypse.
Those were the 3
bad.
awful ones.
Yeah.
Everything else was good. Fine to good.
Fine
I
to
think
good.
mostly good.
I would say mostly fine.
Oh.
But
Logan, great.
Logan was
X2, great.
Logan
quite
was
good.
First Class,
Oscar-worthy.
First Class, really good. Days of Future Past, pretty good.
Logan is the only time I
X1 is like
have
good.
cried in a superhero movie. Yeah.
Yeah, as you should.
Because you cried in Dark Knight?
Yep.
What scene?
The entire movie. Dark Knight is fucking amazing.
I was
It's
on the
good.
edge of
I
my
saw that
seat for
movie.
Dark Knight,
I saw
but
that movie
didn't cry.
7 times, and I did cry at the end the first time where he cites the now famous line. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not the hero the city needs right now. You know, as he's framed him, he's basically taking the rap for murder
Right.
and running away to hide, basically so that the city doesn't believe that Harvey Dent crossed
was
over,
Two-Face.
and that because if the city realized what Harvey Dent had done, then Joker wins, and so he takes the fall, and that part I did cry on.
Okay.
The city is ready to prove to you.
It was so
that
good.
it's ready to believe in good.
Now you killed it. You just
The movie
you
was
took
so
it and
good.
then you did your silly voice,
My silly voice.
your impression of his silly voice, which is also a silly voice.
It's like I was going to say.
It wasn't that
cited,
silly in that
wasn't-
scene.
yeah.
That specific scene, it was not that silly. I've watched it more than any other movie. That
Yeah.
scene is fine. The scene is great.
Dark Knight
It
was.
It would have
was
been
good.
better had he slightly slipped into his Bruce Wayne voice. I'm just saying.
Probably actually, but it was. It wasn't as.
It wasn't. I'm
As
not
silly
saying
as
it's
you're
bad.
saying it was.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It's a great movie. I didn't cry.
We got negative Nancy over here.
I mean, I didn't cry at that part.
Yeah.
But like, I cry more at like, not heroic things, but like, God, wow, getting old sucks in these characters that like I care about and like
huge jacked man.
huge jacked man.
We can't lose.
Old jacked Logan.
It was mostly Professor X, you know, like
Oh,
a character
yeah.
who's like, the whole thing is being
Was I the only
Yeah.
one
a little
seeing
cognizant and
like
like
Logan
Captain
was
Picard,
a,
like seeing him be killed?
yeah.
But it was the same thing for me.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
like
I was like, oh
It-
no,
it's like
not the
Logan,
captain.
The character was a metaphor for getting old.
right.
Professor X was a metaphor for being like on the edge of death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that got me, man.
Yeah.
That was pretty
Like,
good.
Yeah. Like say what you want about the part of that movie that was X-Men First Class.
My only problem with Logan is that there's a handful of plot holes that are really apparent that you kind of have to ignore to really get into it, which you can do easily because it's such a great movie.
Yeah.
But it's,
Yeah.
I don't
It's
think
not a
Dark
perfect
Knight,
plot.
I don't think Dark Knight has the same like kind of consistency issue and plot hole issue.
It's got a different issue, but not. But both of those movies are great.
Yeah. Dark Knight's better.
Ooh, that's hard.
Moving on.
I'm trying to decide, Emery. You can't cut me off like this.
I
one
mean,
had
if
the
you want to make
greatest performance in a superhero movie, and one had a really, really great performance in a superhero movie. Heath Ledger won an Academy Award posthumously for his best work in his entire life.
It was very good. Yeah.
It was outstanding. Go ahead. Who performed better? Who performed better in Logan? Huge jacked man just ran around and screamed the whole time. Patrick Stewart just played dumb.
Whoa, man.
Whoa,
Whoa. No, man.
I don't know what's going on.
I'm mad at you now. Man, that's not cool.
I'm playing it up.
okay.
I know you
Heath
are, but-
Ledger
He played
might-
great, but
might-
Heath Ledger blew it out of the park.
He-
You can't
Heath
touch
Ledger was great, but he still had to act right next to every time.
that. And like,
It wasn't-
one scene. One scene they're actually together. The rest of the time they're just chasing each other.
Ah.
They were only together for one scene. I'm pretty sure they were together for
At least.
They're at this
Let Her Go.
for like 10 seconds, and then he throws her out the window and he jumps. They're barely together, and then they're together when he's punching him in the fucking face and
Right.
hanging him off the building.
Yeah.
Why you want to kill me?
That
And if not for Heath Ledger, we would not have the Tommy Wiseau Joker.
truly.
I don't want to kill you.
Ooh, gives me the jeebies.
You complete me. Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? I have. Tommy Wiseau's the best.
God damn it.
All right, we gotta move on.
We could talk about that all fucking night.
I know.
Such
I know,
a good.
Emery.
This is such a good episode.
But we're not gonna.
Damn it. Don't end. Next up, Marvel's Jessica Jones has been renewed for a third season on Netflix.
I need to watch the second.
I haven't
So
watched.
sad.
I haven't watched the first. So
The first, honestly, is legitimately my favorite superhero media in the past
no kidding.
modern era of superhero stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
It is
like
amazing.
like if I could take a classic like story from like the 40s or 50s, like the Maltese Falcon, and bring it into like the modern era.
Yeah.
That's pretty close to what Jessica Jones is.
Wow, it's pretty high praise there.
Legitimately, yeah.
Um,
Quite good.
Next up, a thing I alluded to earlier: Agents of. God, I keep making everything plural today. Agent of Shield's Ghost Rider, Gabriel Luna, has been cast to be the next primary assassin robot in Tim Miller's Terminator reboot.
It's a reboot?
Yeah, it's a reboot. Oh no! However, it's featuring the original characters reprising their roles.
Oh.
Arnold
wow.
Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton with. God, she was hot in the 90s. Oh, I love Linda Hamilton.
Is she the main character of Terminator?
She's Sarah Connor.
Okay, I'm terrible with names.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Calm
Linda,
down, buddy.
Linda
It's gonna be
Hamilton.
okay.
Linda Hamilton in
You'll be
Terminator
okay.
2 still gives me the hots, man. Like, God, she's got the guns. She's tough. She's fucking hot as shit. She's
And
got the
she's-
whole like Sonya
Well, there's
Blade
a lot of
outfit.
molten
She's
lava
ready
in
to
that
be
movie,
ass,
so
too.
yeah. Everyone's probably pretty warm.
Thank you, Grover.
Puns
Yes.
just keep killing me
Yeah.
inside.
This is what you get for trapping me
Puns
here.
are killing me inside. So Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton are set to reprise their roles as the Terminator and as Sarah Connor. They're gonna be fucking old, and they
Rude.
better start making this movie quick because Arnold Schwarzenegger's been in the hospital recently for heart issues. I'm pretty sure he had surgery recently.
I'm concerned.
The movie is expected November 19th, 2019. So
Okay.
we'll see.
I mean, it's probably actually mostly done then by now, actually.
Yeah. I mean, Terminator 3 was awful.
Mm-hmm.
The one with Batman, Christian Bale.
Was
That one was okay, but
Is that
it was just-
Terminators, or am I thinking of Predators?
You're
thinking of
Predators.
I think that one was Terminator Salvation.
Salvation, yeah.
Salvation, there we
Terminator
go.
Salvation. It was fine, but it wasn't necessary.
That-
It wasn't
that-
what Terminator fans want.
Yeah, that was a John Connor story.
Like no one cares about the future world.
Well, actually, that
We care about preventing it.
Yeah, that wasn't even a John Connor story. That was how John Connor came to be, kind of.
Well, you see, Emery, when in the future, the main character of a movie. No, wait, that would have been the past. I don't even know. I'm trying to make a really bad like birds and the bees jokes here, and it's just not working.
They did turn Kyle Reese into the Philip J. Fry of that entire.
Oh no!
Yeah, they do. And then the most recent one where they like reboot the timeline by like skipping around, and they explain Arnold Schwarzenegger being old because the Terminator's exoskeleton is organic and it ages normally. So that's how they explain him looking old.
Why?
I didn't see it because Terminator 3 had like just ruined it for me, and based on like the recasting of Sarah Connor as this other.
Oh, I
young,
see. Okay, fine.
Nothing about it. Okay, Linda Hamilton wasn't in it. I wanted Linda Hamilton. Okay,
Now we know the
real
real reason.
reasons.
but no, I didn't see it, so I don't know if it was any good. I've heard it's awful, but
I've heard it's bad too.
to each their own.
It's bad.
So look forward to that. I love Terminator, the series and the franchise and the idea. I love what
idea.
James Cameron did with Terminator 1 and 2. Or was he only on 2?
I think
he
it was
did
2.
He
They were
definitely
both
did-
good.
He definitely did 2.
2 is just better.
Yeah.
But 2 is obviously 2 is my favorite movie of all time.
Oh wow!
Period.
All right.
If that movie is on TV, I'm gonna sit down and watch it. Forrest Gump's the same way. If I see Forrest Gump on TV, I'm gonna watch it. Terminator 2, even more so. I mean,
So-
Oh yeah.
How do you think Tommy Wiseau would play in either of these movies?
oh god, don't even joke. I can't handle it right now because they would cast him. That's the one franchise that would take a chance.
Ha ha ha! Come with me if you want to live.
I am the T1000. Oh hi 200.
I feel like he's like a T.001 or
Yeah.
something like that. A very early model.
Yeah. He's the dev. He's the dev kit.
Oh,
Oh, hi, Sarah Connor. I didn't know it was you.
you're my favorite robot.
It's in a weird new language that we don't understand.
What you talking about? I same age as you, Sarah Connor.
Next to an Indonesian censorship guide, it has been revealed that the Avengers Infinity War's runtime will be 2 hours and 36 minutes.
That's long.
So it's a hefty movie. Look forward to that.
Ooh.
And that's half of a movie, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
part
hefty
one.
half.
Yeah.
Next up, John Ridley is set to write and direct The American Way, Those Above and Below, movie based on his own DC-owned comic. No potential release date was reported, but that's interesting if you're a fan of that comic. I never read it, so I have no idea if it's good or not.
First time hearing of it.
Yeah. Again, owned by John Ridley, so yeah, maybe it didn't get published quite as much as it should have. Next up, Valiant's editor-in-chief Warren Simmons has left the company for unknown reasons. While a replacement has not been announced, it is speculated that the newest editor hire, Joseph Illich, will be taking his place. So if you're a Valiant fan, maybe look out for that. I think Valiant has been stumbling the past few years and not putting out hardly enough content to justify its market value.
Yeah.
Existent. No, it's rude.
But we'll see what happens with Valiant. Next up, it's time for Delay Corner.
Oh, man.
This is our weekly segment, thanks to the enormous amount of delays that keep occurring. And no surprise, DC headlines, most of them.
Of course. New Age of Heroes, I'm looking at you.
First up, Batman and the Signals collected 3-issue volume has been canceled.
Is that his band or something?
No reason was given. It's awful.
Okay.
It's based on Dark Knight's Metal, if that tells you anything. And it's a bright yellow mini Batman.
Oh, the signals like the bat signals? Oh my god, that's
Yeah,
really bad.
It's awful.
That's
It's really bad.
That's dumb.
It would have been better if it was actually just that stupid light that they have at the top of Gotham PD. But it's not.
About that light.
Next up, one
Just
we've
like
been
some
talking
art
about.
Shining a light on justice.
Really sad. Mr. Miracle #9 has been delayed a month. We knew this was coming, but
Now it's official.
now it's official. It will now premiere on June 6th. So We get a new Mr. Miracle this week. Spoilers for new releases, but that's the last one you're getting until June 6th.
Yeah.
And obviously this one's been delayed, so we're getting this one late too. Next up, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Number 93 has been delayed 6 months. It will now premiere on June 20th. Again, also owned by DC.
Oh.
Great job, guys. And that, my friends, is the news.
Was Scooby-Doo part of Convergence?
Probably. There's a new Scooby-Doo called Scooby-Doo Apocalypse.
Oh, really?
And it is
I don't know if you're joking or not
No,
right now.
this is real. This is
jeez.
real. Let me show you.
Okay, yeah.
Let me educate you.
Show me that hound solving some apocalypse crimes.
For those of you unfamiliar.
Wait, it's a show?
Well,
You went to YouTube.
I don't know why I went to YouTube.
Okay.
I went to our other.
I was about to be super excited.
our other overlord. For those of you unfamiliar with Scooby-Doo Apocalypse, watch our YouTube channel, and I will show you here on the screen. I can't spell apocalypse when I'm
is
talking.
an O.
Whatever, it'll pop up.
It'll find it.
Oh, geez.
And here we have.
Oh, wow,
It's basically a futuristic, super hardcore hipster reimagining of the cast of Scooby-Doo.
Oh, boy.
And yeah.
Is Velma a witch? Does she have magic powers?
I don't know.
This
I mean,
this is what happens when the writer goes back and burns a J to try to figure out.
I feel
so
like that's
how do we-
normal Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
And I
but
might-
this is when we try to figure out. So how do we get the dog to talk?
Oh,
geez.
and you asked what all the projects that Jim Lee was working on.
Oh.
That's one of
This is
them.
one of the things
Huh.
stretching him thin.
Really
well
I'm gonna
worth it.
dedicate all my energy to Scooby-Doo Apocalypse.
But
It
yeah.
hurts.
I really hope that the apocalypse is just something that like Old Man Jenkins is putting on right now, and then we get to the end of the series, and it's just like this was all lights and mirrors.
Old man Jenkins.
So
Whoop.
it looks a little rough. Rough.
Oh, yo!
I had to get one in there today.
Congratulations.
But it's what it is. I probably won't read it. So, Chris, what books are we hitting up this week? Well, Emery, I thought you'd never ask.
whoa.
Yeah, I
Don't
totally-
you take my job
I
from
totally
me?
stole your line.
Oh.
What was that again? Emery, could you repeat that?
Oh.
No.
Wait a minute. Which one of me is me?
First up, from IDW Publishing, we have 30 Days of Night, number 5. We have Antar, number 1. Antar?
Antar, the Black Knight.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have-
I'm reading this. I don't know it.
That
have a
sounds legit.
Assassinistas, number 4. We have Diablo House, number 4. We have Ghostbusters, number 2. Crossing over. For the bronies out there, we got My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, number 65. We have Optimus Prime, number 17. We have Punk's Not Dead, but it kind of is. Number 3. It's been dead for a while. We have Sonic the Hedgehog, Gotta Go Fast,
Dun, dun.
number 3. Gotta go fast. We have Star Trek, Boldly Go, number 18.
That is a lot of variant covers. Wow. Oh, there's also Discovery though. Okay, so it's not just. Okay,
Don't be surprised.
it's still like 4.
We have Star Trek Discovery Succession, number 1. We have Star Wars Adventures, number 9. We have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Universe, number 21. Not to be confused with the regular Ninja Turtles, which is on a different line. We have The Crow, Memento Mori, number 2. We have The Highest House, great book. Please read this, number 3. We have The Spider King, number 3. We have Transformers, Lost Light, number 17. We have X-Files, Case Files, Florida Man, number 1.
I love that that's Florida Man. I know nothing about it, but woo! Glad he's getting his own series. He's done a lot of good work.
We have Uncle Scrooge, number 34. And finally, we have Walt Disney Showcase, number 2. From DC Comics, it's the big week. Bendis is coming. Action Comics, number 1000. Get out and get it, because they tell you to. It'll probably be worth something.
Woot.
And
1,000's a big number.
there are 6 million variants for this. If you want 6 million Superman covers, now's the time to grab them.
He's everywhere.
We have Aquaman number 35. Again, Dan Abnett writing this, I'm pretty sure. Let me make sure that Federici is taking over again. Otherwise, I'm going to steer you clear. Federici is back.
Hey!
So,
Yo.
that weird number 34 alternative artist issue was awful. But
I'm digging that variant cover where he's just diving into the water. It's a good cover.
Yeah. They've been doing great covers. Like, they've consistently won covers of the week and variants of the week. So, yeah, pick up Dan Abnett's line. He's doing an awesome job. Next up, we have Batman number 45. I don't know if this is the wedding or post-wedding. So,
Right. They really committed to that.
Who's getting married, by the way?
Catwoman and Batman.
Oh, well, good for them.
At the same time that Colossus and Kitty Pryde are getting married.
Well, good for
Again,
them, too.
they can't stop ripping each other off.
Yeah.
They're doing something.
They're
We
very
got to do
different
something.
characters, at least.
Next up, we have Batman Cross Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, number 6. We have Batman Creatures of the Night, Convergence, number 3. We have Batman Sins of the Father, number 3, which I think is the Telltale tie-in.
Oh.
We have Batwoman, number 14. We have Bombshells United, number 16. We have big release, Cave Carson Has an Interstellar Eye, number 2.
Hey, get
If
hyped.
you remember from a previous to the content match drapes, number 1 was awesome.
They showed me the cover of that, and I am already sold. I'm jumping in. At the very least, I will be reading about Space Prince.
It's really fun.
yeah.
It's really awesome. Next up, Damage number 4. If you want a Hulk rip-off that can only last an hour.
Just got to put limits on it.
I guess.
See a doctor if it lasts more than 4 hours.
See, that's the concern. They didn't want to see their doctor, so they just 1 hour. That's the limit.
Well, that's why Hulk is green. He's just necrotic.
Oh no! Oh.
Everything's rotting,
Oh.
dying.
Is that why you have to see a doctor?
Yeah.
It might
God.
be.
It gets
Huh.
necrotic. Next up, we have
ugh.
Dead Man number 6. We have Future Quest Presents number 9. Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Wait, what? Really?
Bring back. Yeah, it's Brack. We need Brack.
Oh wow!
Oh, man.
Next up, we have Green Lanterns number 45. We have Harley Quinn number 42. Holy shit, there are a lot of releases this week, in addition to all the variants. We have Injustice 2 number 24. We have Justice League number 43. Oh my god. We have Mr. Miracle number 8. Big release, get it?
Oh, yeah, get hyped.
Great book. We have Nightwing number 43. Has not been great as of late with fucking Sturgeon and Guppy.
That boot art, though.
That boot art is hot. That Superman boot art.
Hot boot.
Next up, we have Super Sons number 15. Fun book. We have Teen Titans Go number 27.
Why though?
Because Emery likes it.
I mean,
He's defended them multiple times.
Don't you judge me.
I am Emery. This is something I didn't know about you.
Look, if you actually watch the show, there is so much more to it than anyone could probably glean from just watching
But
it.
I'm a hipster. I
It's
don't
fine.
want to actually watch it. I want to judge it without knowing.
Oh, you fool.
Isn't that our job on this show?
Yes. Mine specifically, because I don't know any of this stuff.
Speaking of things that are bad, The Brave and the Bold, Batman and Wonder Woman number 3. First issue was awful. The art is really awkward, and
the story is just kind of
men
gross.
in particular just are not drawn well in this book. So I would not recommend it. I'm sorry. Next up from Marvel Comics, we have Avengers number 689. We have Black Panther number 172. We have Cable number 156. We have Daredevil number 601. We have Infinity Countdown number 2. We have so many variants. We have Iron Fist number 80. We have Marvel Superhero Adventures number 1. We have Marvel Universe Magazine number 1. We have Miss Marvel number 29. I don't know why it says leg, but leg.
Okay.
Maybe Legacy.
Oh, no.
Maybe we're bringing that back.
anything but that.
We have Star Wars Poe Dameron number 26 for you fucking nerds. We have Tales of Suspense number 104 with a good cover. We have The Amazing Spider-Man number 799 with Goblin Carnage. Is that what it is?
Oh wow.
Maybe.
It looks like Goblin Carnage. We have The Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, good book, number 18. We have The Incredible Hulk number 715.
I do love the art on that. It just when you're editing this, you got to put that art on there. It's just
Oh yeah,
amazing.
It all goes up.
Okay, good.
Again, watch the YouTube channel if you want to see all the art for these covers. We have Venomized number 3. We have Weapon H number 2, Preparation H.
Oh,
We
Wait,
have
really?
nah,
Okay.
we have
I mean,
Weapon
you might
X
wanna
number
get your butt ready.
16,
Rude.
and we have X-Men Gold number 26.
Hmm.
Next up from Image Comics, we have Curse Words number 13. We have Death of Love number 3. We have Descender number 29. We have Evolution number 6. We have Infidel number 2. We have Kick-Ass number 3. Don't buy this book.
don't.
We
Don't
have
do it.
Lazarus number 27. We have Mage the Hero Denied number 8.
Huh.
We have Moonshine number 9.
That sounds like a drink.
We have Rumble number 5.
That also sounds like a drink.
Wow. I don't know about that one.
Rumble number 5, I'd drink it.
Rumble number 5.
That's Mambo number 5. Maybe that's what. Okay, and that song's about drinks.
We have Skyward number 1. I think you're a closet alcoholic over here.
What?
We have The Further Adventures of
Please.
Nick Wilson number 4.
I've never been in a closet.
And we have Warframe number 4. From Boom Studios, we have Fence number 5, which I'm still pretty sure is an innuendo for crossing swords.
It looks like a sports anime, but not an anime, and about fencing.
If that's what you want to call it.
Well, I mean, I haven't read it. It just that's what it looks like.
Neither have we.
Okay.
We haven't read it.
We are completely judging the books by the covers we have previously
Oh.
seen.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a phrase about not doing that.
Next up, we have Kong on the Planet of the Apes, number 6. Yes, we combined the ape worlds.
Yep.
We have Lucy Dreaming, number 2.
Would they revere Kong? I feel like they'd revere Kong.
Probably.
Or they'd see him as one big dumb monkey and an
Eh.
embarrassment on their their species.
God,
Like,
everyone
why
can
can't this
see
big
him.
one
Put
why,
him down!
why can't the big one talk? He's lesser.
We have Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It's Morphin time! Number 26.
Nerd.
Mastodon.
Ebola!
God damn it.
For old fans. We have
I
Steven.
wasn't allowed to watch the Power Rangers because my parents told me it would make me violent.
See, my grandmother wouldn't let my cousins watch it because they would start beating the hell out of each other.
See?
But I was the calm child, so she let me watch it, so I got to watch everything.
Hey.
It was awesome.
And you didn't beat the hell out of each other.
No, we didn't. But my cousins were animals as children, so.
Oh, okay.
Next up, we have Steven
What
Universe.
kind of animals were they? Cats, dogs,
Like
lions?
feral hyenas.
Oh,
We we had Steven Universe number 15. We have WWE number 16. Get the SmackDown, brother.
Ooh, yeah.
Next up, we have from Dynamite Entertainment. We have James Bond, The Body, number 4. We have John Wick, number 2. Don't mess with this dog. We have 6 million Red
can we
Sonja
cross over with
variants.
Scooby-Doo?
Why not?
Oh, sorry.
Convergence. We have Xena, number 3. From Dark Horse Comics, we have Black Hammer, Age of Doom, number 1. We have, I hate reading this one, Empowered and Sista Spookies, High School Hell, number 4.
Yeah, it hurts.
I hate the title. We have Giants, number 5. We have Matahari, number 3. Read that if you want to bore yourself to death.
Ooh,
And
sign me up.
we have Usagi Yojimbo, number 2, The Hidden. And Vinegar Teeth, number 4. From Titan Books, we have Penny Dreadful, number 9. We have The Wonderful World of Tank Girl, number 4.
Huh.
Because that's still a thing.
And from Vertigo, we have Deathbed, number 3.
Does Vertigo really only have one thing coming out?
Well, it's because DC basically devoured all their titles.
Okay.
Like Constantine is a DC title
Oh,
now.
huh.
Like Swamp Thing is a DC title now. It's because they just devoured all their favorite things from Vertigo, and they're like, we'll leave
do
this
some
shit for
things.
Vertigo to try to work with.
Okay.
But Vertigo is
Yeah.
actually like Imaginary Fiends is a Vertigo title, and it's really good.
Huh.
It's basically if Digimon were demons.
So the Shin Megami Tensei series.
I'm not familiar with it, so
Okay. Take that, but then apply an X-Files / Supernatural field to it, where
Yeah.
you're traveling across the country.
So imagine
Okay.
you're
Sign me up. That sounds fun.
you're an X-Files agent with your
Every
own
day.
particular imaginary Digimon that is a horrific
demon.
ghastly monster thing
All
that
right.
can murder everybody.
I'd play that RPG.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
That is everything coming to your local comic book shops
Please support your local comic book shops.
and digital devices this week. Now it's time to hand out the prestigious, nay life-changing award of cover and variant cover of the week.
Woo!
First up, for our cover of the week, it goes to DC's Batwoman number 14 by Dan Panosian. Now, this cover it's kind of like Gotham by Gaslight in material. I don't know if Dan Panosian worked on Gotham by Gaslight, but it's that kind of very cool, like, storybook aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like, kind of a dark, gothic storybook aesthetic, as you would expect from a Batwoman book. But it's really cool. Just, like, it has a very unique art style that we don't see on comic covers very often. I feel like comic covers either go full cartoony and silly, or they go full, like, attempts at being realistic and oftentimes fail, but, you know. I think this one is like a cool, happy, unique medium in between, where it's not really just an art expression, but it still has those core, like, comic book values, and it stands out. It would look great on a wall, and
Yeah, for sure.
it's definitely collectible, and I would love to see this in, like, a really nice, like, hardcover, like, story tale book, you know.
This definitely gives me the feel of there were quite a few games back in, like, the mid to early 90s that during the 16-bit era we had some games that were just dark and, like, edgy and kind of like a Splatterhouse type game, and that's definitely the feel that I get from this. Like, it has a very, like, edgy and dark, but it's like you're the heroes, like,
It's that
trying to
black-red contrast.
yeah. It's like there's something about that contrast that kind of makes me also think of Night of the Living Dead. Well, not Night of the Living Dead. I'm sorry. I'm confusing that with Tales of the Crypt.
Oh.
Yes. Yes, it has that aesthetic where there's a slight bit of goof, but it's shrouded in all of this darkness.
Not too long ago, we had a Crypt Keeper comic, but no one read it.
Wah, wah.
That one
Back to the crypt I go!
Yes, that's what happened.
But yeah, Dan Panosian did a great job. And if you want to hear if Marguerite Bennett and Fernando Blanco did as well on the inside as the outside, stick around for future episodes.
Oh yeah.
Next up, the variant of the
Called
week.
a hook.
Got him. The variant of the week goes to Image Comics Infidel number 2. Mac variant by David Mack. Now, this one, I'm not familiar with the title. It's on the second issue, so obviously I need to catch up. But this one will be easy to review. But it has this really cool kind of watercolor aesthetic to it, and it portrays this kind of, like, ghostly, like, apparition of a woman here. It's a great art piece. It's a great standalone art piece, and even the signature, I love the art of the signature there. And again, kudos to Image Comics for being awesome and not putting the barcode on the front.
Yes.
Thank you.
Image has been doing this for a while, and I thank them for it because it allows us to fully appreciate the cover art. And when you display it, like, I love these variants I have here, but every single one has a big obnoxious barcode in the corner that obstructs some of the art. Really obnoxious. I wish they would stop. There's no reason not to put it on the back. But I digress. David Mack really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the series either, obviously, but it definitely, with the flowing ink that they used, it looks almost like the person is sort of apparating and disappearing into the background. And from this quick description I'm sort of reading over right now, and it does look like it does have definitely some ghost story stuff going with it, some hauntings. Again, don't know the full story or anything like that, but it definitely is evocative of hopefully something that is along those lines.
Yeah, and I think David Mack has been recently well known for doing this because I think he's been doing covers for Jessica Jones that are very similar. But
That's exactly what this cover felt like.
yeah, he very frequently does these kind of like watercolor, usually in like bright purples. For his artwork, and usually he paints like celebrities and stuff, but recently
Right.
he's been doing a lot of Jessica Jones covers, like that one right there.
Oh, that's quite good.
But he does a lot of really cool stuff. He did what's the Alice Cooper. He did Alice Cooper had a comic for a little while there, and he did some covers for Alice Cooper that were really awesome. And David Mack is consistently putting out great work. I don't know if this is the first time he's won the award, but it's well deserved this week. It's great cover art by David Mack. And if you want to hear if the content is as good on the inside as the outside, be sure to stick around next week, and we will evaluate Porn Sack. What an unfortunate first name.
Wow.
Porn Sack Pichetshote. I'll put it on the screen. I'm probably butchering that, but it looks like Porn Sack to me. And illustrators Jose Villarrubia and Aaron Campbell. So stick
I
around.
might check it out too.
I'll probably have that update for next week because it's only 2 issues in.
Oh yeah.
So that was easy enough. So once again, big congratulations to Dan Panosian and David Mack for Batwoman number 14 and Infidel number 2. Be sure to pick those up. And now for our new friends out there, this is the part of the show where we discuss a topic of our choosing about the world of comics. Now, men, what is our topic?
Ooh, do we not have one yet?
Oh, we had one.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Then what's our top-
In celebration of Sean Gordon Murphy's announcement of a potential future for the Batman White Knight universe, what kind of expansion of a currently established non-main canon story arc or universe would you like to see, a la like the Frank Miller sequels? Like we've had the Dark Knight Returns 2 and the Dark Knight Returns 3 sequels to the original Dark Knight Returns storyline from the 80s, and in addition to a few other spin-offs he's had with Superman that's coming up real soon here as part of the Black Label DC Books, their new initiative to let independent creators create something
that's cool.
as an art statement. Yeah, so that's introduced as part of it. So Frank Miller's just kind of come out of the woodwork with this. I mean, he's been around, but he's been working on several other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to see him return to this universe. I'm not a big fan of what he did with the third one. The second one I really didn't like. I was glad he let things be after the second one for a while. But the third one was solid. It was fine. It didn't grip me the way the first one did. And I mean, I'm looking forward to the Superman one, but I wasn't really asking for more.
Yeah.
I was wondering if there's some things that you would like to see more of. I know in the past we've talked about the Superman Red Sun.
Yes, I was actually
Story
going to
World.
say that one.
Yeah, I figured that was probably boiling in you a
It's
little
like,
bit.
ooh.
But yeah, that would.
Yeah.
What would you like to see from that? Would you like them to focus on Superman again? Do you want them to focus on a different character from that universe or a different dynamic?
I would say that universe is so ripe for 1,001 different stories to be told. But the Superman one, I think, has been done to completion. I like there's the Wonder Woman, there's the Russian Batman, there's the Green Lantern Marine Corps, there's any number of characters, like whether they were featured in Superman Red Sun or not, that you could pull from. It's like, imagine for a moment we have a Martian Manhunter story where he's happening upon what for us would be a very different form or a very different political climate for the planet Earth.
Definitely. I would like to see the other side. I would like to see perspectives from other countries, particularly the United States or whatever the equivalent is.
I think they actually covered that quite a bit between like two different things, and that was Lex Luthor and the Green Lantern Marine Corps.
Yeah, I agree. It's there quite a bit, but I'd like to see like
a further fleshing out.
further fleshing out. Yeah, because it's two kind of like one's typically the villainous sect or whatever, and one is just like whatever.
We're just here, guys.
At least that's how I felt when I was reading it.
The Green Lantern Marine Corps was more or less like a plot point, as opposed to like actual characters.
I mean, we talked about this before the podcast, but another thing we were getting recently is Old Man Hawkeye, which kind of fleshes out the backstory to the blind Hawkeye from Old Man Logan, the original one from Mark Millar, and it's really good. It's really solid. The artwork's great. The storytelling's I wouldn't say as good, but it's pretty solid. It's pretty good all around.
Oh yeah.
So that was a nice reintroduction in a way that I enjoyed. Unlike the current Old Man Logan comics, which are Old Man Logan taking out of his original universe in the Secret Wars bullshit, which is Marvel's Convergence.
Yeah,
it was,
and placing him in the current timeline because we killed the regular Wolverine, so we could insert Lady Wolverine into his role and her sidekick, who is a younger little girl,
Honey Badger,
named Honey Badger, and then
still hurts.
Give his son Dakin some time on other books. And, there's
like Iceman.
There's a lot of dumb going on right now, and Old Man Hawkeye is a nice like escape.
yes, please. Like let's focus on another character in this universe that we came up with that isn't Wolverine, because I think that's where we're going to get, in my opinion, more interesting stories.
Yeah. And I think this is a fun topic to bring up, particularly now, because I feel like more so than ever in the past, the non-continuity books, the Batman White Knight, the Mr. Miracle, the Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, the Old Man Hawkeye, these are the books that are shining for these brands.
Yeah.
And the main canon books that are relying on all of this nonsense that keeps being shoved down their throats is not really thriving well. I mean, I'd say the one exception is maybe Doctor Strange Damnation, but it's so far removed from the current canon that it doesn't really impact it too much.
Yeah, that is, strangely enough, a book that's been, while it is a big event, it's happening away from everything that's been happening, which is kind of hilarious when you think about it.
Like, as someone who's coming from the outside, I can get the plot line of Damnation real easily. I don't have to like know what happened in the last 5 years or whatever of Marvel canon to know. Oh, yep, Mephisto, he's got Vegas, which is kind of like hell on earth right now, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Easy.
Precisely.
We got it. And now I can just jump into that and have some fun.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
So,
that's what we want from comics, is for people to be able to just jump in wherever.
And I feel like I'd expect them to be better at that with all of the movies going on, because there's a lot of people getting into comics now who probably have never picked up a comic in their entire life,
Yeah.
They
But
love all this fun comic book stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like all of these movies have been doing very well, and you would think that would translate into more people being into comics.
Should.
It should. That's not necessarily the case, unfortunately.
One of the big ones I would like to see personally is Gotham by Gaslight. I would love to see a kind of expansion of the Gotham by Gaslight world, whereas, all we kind of saw was, a focused tale about kind of Jack the Ripper and Batman, Sherlock Holmes, essentially. And there's a few other characters that show up, but I feel like there's a lot more potential that could be had in that time period with superheroes, even if they're not necessarily in London,
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a fun one to explore, and it would give writers a lot of freedom to
Marvel did that
try
whole
new
like
things.
1608 thing a long time ago. I don't remember
They did.
much about it.
Yeah, that is basically, let's go to a time when all of these characters would not have existed, and let's make up this time era's version of these characters. like Captain America was a blonde guy who was basically doing his best Last of the Mohicans
Oh, boy.
thing. Peter Parquois was
yeah.
a
I think I read that one.
kind of Spider-Man, but he was all dressed up all William Shakespeare-like with his weird doublet, as it were.
Why though?
Because 1608.
Yeah.
It was that I think was a good way of experimenting with like the things that we could do with these characters.
Sure.
Just, like put them in different time periods, put them in different political climates, put them in different universes. Oh, but yeah, there's so much that you could do, and it makes me really excited to hear Sean Gordon Murphy establishing this, like, yeah, I might actually do more of these.
Which is baller.
Yeah,
cool.
but not just that he was going to announce more, but that he had a firm set of rules in place going forward.
It's also reassuring the company's letting him do that.
Yeah. That is
I mean,
the balls you gotta have.
That's a big kudos we got to give out to DC. Like, as much crap as we give them for like their new initiative kind of being a bunch of Marvel ripoffs, and the
Honestly, they look interesting though. I kind of want to read some of
they
these.
are fun reads for the
Yeah.
most part. I mean, Damage
Yeah.
is probably the exception. Silencer is an original book, which is
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Even though I hate Romita's art. Everything is a box. John Romita Jr. there.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to like there, and even though we gripe about the barcodes not being on the back yet, it's a small thing. The biggest thing we criticize them about is the delays and the inconsistency of release, and this happens across the industry. But folding to feedback from Twitter. Twitter eggs, basically, that harass them.
Right.
And we've covered this, I think, on episode 26, if you want to go back and listen to that. But we had an interview on here that we were reading about from the editor-in-chief at Marvel, the previous one, and several creators that work at Marvel and DC, talking about how Twitter users force them to water down their books and completely change their stories halfway through. And to anybody that's been keeping up with the books, it's not really a secret. You can really tell when things just turn heel and suddenly lose their edge and then nothing, because a
Right.
handful of loud Twitter users just harass them relentlessly about subject A or subject B. And I think they did something very brave and were very honest about it and said that we hate when we do it. We don't want to do it, but sometimes we just give in because we just, we don't want to disappoint our fans that we love,
Right.
and, you don't want to have that kind of besmirch on you. And then you find out after the fact that, it really was just a handful of people, griping about nothing.
Yeah.
And we've discussed this on the show, but really, I feel like even if the story is kind of bad, just follow through with whatever your promise was, which is one thing I hate about the industry. They live paycheck to paycheck, book to book. They create everything the month before. There's really no give or take. They might have a basic outline, but none of the dialogue's written. Nothing is framed. Sean Gordon Murphy's the one exception. But I think
Is that why he's on time?
yes, it is. And he's writing and drawing it.
Oh wow, jeez,
yeah.
what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he's
like,
making a focused story.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if he was just writing, but this is his book.
He's doing
Wow.
everything. So,
Props, good job.
Yeah.
but I think it's too many creators, are doing this paycheck to paycheck thing and working on too many books and spreading themselves too thin. And the industry needs to change if it's going to survive. We keep seeing the sales dropping every month, year over year, and I think it's just, in addition to the kind of canonical issues, the delays, it's a fundamental industry issue where instead of commissioning a story from an artist and a writer, giving them some kind of upfront commission to create a full-fledged story, even if it's not drawn all the way yet, because that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Make the full storyline, commit to it, and then create it, and just let it live on its own merit, whether it's good or bad or whatever. It still represents like a time capsule for the industry. What was acceptable, what was not acceptable, what edges were being tested, what kind of guidelines were being challenged, and that's what I want to see. Because you can clearly identify kind of an aesthetic to every era, whether it's the kind of corny 50s and 60s or the kind of more dark post in Vietnam era of the 70s into the 80s, and then you got kind of like one side kind of an ultra conservatism and pro-government type of thing, and then an opposing faction of the same thing during the 80s, which is very representative of the time. And then the 90s, things get kind of light and airy and goofy, and things get more colorful and over the top, and then into the 2000s, at post 9/11, things get a little darker, a little grimmer. This is where DC really takes on that kind of gritty reputation it now has, and into the 2010s where things are starting to get lighter again as the wars are kind of fading in our memory and things like that. I think it's a perfect time capsule, and when users are in this new era of social media, folding into the pressure of maybe a handful of outlets that are very outspoken, or a handful of Twitter eggs or Facebook users harassing them.
I feel like part of the environment, we're talking about how like each time has its own picture and its own thing, and I think that's part of the modern era is social connection in media is so
I feel like
pervasive.
It's just so scattered because of that influence, though, that there's no real identity for this era right
it's hard
now.
yeah, I mean you can't like write into a story and this was because of this statement or something like that, but it is something that is happening because of these things, and the stories of their own are happening because of I don't know the full details of what exactly, like the things that might have been changed or things like that.
Sure. Like I said, we went over in episode
right,
26 for anybody who wants to listen to it. And the article, we tweeted it out on our Twitter account, @HTVvids. If you scroll down a few notifications there, it should be on there where we posted the link from Newsarama. And a really great article. And really, like, honest, like, heartfelt interviews that I thought were definitely necessary, and I hope comic fans actually get around to reading it and checking it out, because I think it's very important. And I have criticisms all the time. That's no secret to anybody, and I try my hardest not to overreact, and I definitely don't harass creators on the internet or anything like that. I might harass them on the show, and just make some jokes here or there, but I try to make it a point not to like directly, attack their work or anything, because they're putting it on the line out there, and I want to see what their vision is, even if I don't necessarily like it or agree with it or whatever, That's what I want. That's what I think artistic integrity really is. You have to have if you're going to be on these social networks like Facebook and Twitter, and you're going to read the Huffington Posts and the BuzzFeeds and stuff, I think you need to have a little bit of intestinal fortitude if you're going to be in an artistic endeavor, which I get is very difficult to ask of anybody, especially someone with so much of the limelight on them, like a famous creator, or writer, artist, whatever. And I get there's a lot of pressures socially, culturally, religiously, economically that, can dictate things, and it's hard to overcome. But I think a lot of this can be solved by changing the design of the market, by commissioning these things, giving your creators something to live on so they can create a full-fledged, finalized story that you can break up into parts and release, just like your normal comic books, instead of having all these delays and living paycheck to paycheck and being very susceptible to the influences of social media. Whereas if the story was already finished and published and created, you wouldn't that wouldn't be a concern, because it's already in the publisher's hands, and sure, they can make editorial notes, but beyond that, it's pretty much done. Or if you're not going to go with the business solution, you need your creators and your editor especially need to have intestinal fortitude, because the editor was the focus of the article, and even he was saying, yes, I'm susceptible, and I've seen other creators. I don't want to call them out because it's embarrassing for when we do, succumb to it, but it does happen, and pretty frequently. So, I know we went off a little topic there.
A little bit.
It's an important topic, though.
I
Yeah.
think it's something that needs to be addressed across the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
I'm not skewing one way or the other on any of these things, but I do think that the industry needs a fundamental changing of how it pays and commissions its artists and its creators. I think artists and creators should get some kind of commission and then some kind of percentage of the sales after the fact.
Seems more stable too for them, so they can
Exactly.
focus on writing their stories better.
And there's nothing that kills
Or
a book
arting them.
faster than delays, because you're already waiting a month at least for these books, and if it gets delayed 2 months, 3 months, your fans aren't going to remember what the hell happened in the last issue, and most likely it's buried in a box somewhere, and they're not going to go back and find it just to catch up on what happened. It's very tedious and very annoying for fans, especially pool customers that rely on those consistent releases to maintain their pool and their discounts. So it's just not good for the industry, and I hope they change it. So, and yes, artistic intestinal fortitude definitely needs to be there. But I think changing the industry fundamentally would very much go much further in relieving the pressure from the creators themselves and the editors. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. I rehash on this all the time, but it's something that needs to be rehashed upon and until somebody listens, I think. And I think Image does it the right way. I think Image, they have a handful of books that are kind of monthly created and kind of reliant, but I don't think Image is in quite the same amount of spotlight to get that kind of social attack and, feedback. So
Yeah, not nearly as much as the big two.
yeah, and Image already does so many things right,
Yeah.
in my opinion, as far as aesthetics and business practices and creative freedom. So yeah,
But yeah, are there any other big universes you guys want to get into
Emery?
Uh,
and elaborate on?
Short little universe that I would like to have elaborated on would be the I always found things like the manga-verse interesting for Marvel. They did some interesting like Marvel fairy tale things that I always thought was cool. Like they did this story of the boy with the acorn in his eye, which was like their version of Cyclops, where it was just over one eye he would have an acorn and then take it off and then kapwant. I always thought fleshing out universes like that would be a cool idea, but I think the big one is actually just going to be at this point Sean Gordon Murphy's universe. I want more of it.
Yeah, looks so good. How about you, Seth?
I always get concerned with like going back to things that I liked in the past and haven't been touched for a while.
Yeah.
Like especially if you have a different like author doing it or a different director
Sure.
or creator or doing something in another universe.
Kind of like that. Nobody asked for this type of thing.
Right, yeah,
you know?
Like the Watchmen
Exactly,
universe.
Yeah, that's a
Watchmen
that's a
was
big one.
fine being done. No one had to go back to it.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
people went back to it.
Several times, mind you.
Yeah.
For prequels and
Yeah.
all other spin-offs that
So
were
that's-
unnecessary.
It hurts.
Like my concern is that it's just gonna not ruin the memory, but
Maybe dilute it.
Yeah, go back and change something or like
Tarnish it a little,
tarnish it
maybe.
a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I would be all for more Next Wave, which is my favorite like sub-universe, which is technically not canon, but should certainly be canon.
Yeah.
But I don't see anyone going back to it and like doing it just because it's kind of its own complete finished thing,
Yeah.
Next Wave
There's-
Agents of Hate.
There's
Yes.
one big one I'd like to see, and I don't know if it's canon or not anymore because Convergence was so ridiculous. But there was a book at the tail end of New 52 called Aquaman and the Others. And again, it built off kind of what was making Aquaman finally relevant in the New 52, thanks to, I think, Jeff Johns.
Yeah.
And, when he's not killing Nightwing, he's doing great things. But there was a really cool fleshed out story about Aquaman's history before he really got involved with Atlantis. And he had this kind of a team that just by happenstance got together through various events and stuff. And they included some really cool characters that were brand new as far as I could tell. There was the I think it was, I can't remember if he was called the soldier or the something along those lines, something military oriented, but basically he was in a firefight in Afghanistan with a bunch of his squad mates, and all of them got killed and gunned down, and through some kind of hocus pocus he absorbed their souls.
Oh.
And so he has like this kind of issue with multiple personality disorder because each soul kind of takes over, randomly, especially
Yeah.
when something emotional, like they see one of their family members, they like come out and like try to take over his body and like interact with the person, but the person sees this stranger
Right,
that's
yeah.
like being real crazy and weird and, claiming to be said individual that they know is dead. And it creates a lot of cool and like kind of torture dynamics. And his ability is that he can kind of call upon all of their individual talents and skills, and he can also combine them to like make a force multiplier of every little trait that they may have had, whether it be their physical strength and endurance, or maybe their one was really good with explosives, and so he can absorb that, and one was really good martial artist, or combatives for military people, and he's able to tap into that. And he kind of wears this kind of mesh mask because he kind of loses his own identity in the process because they keep taking over more and more of his life, and he can't have a normal relationship like he used to because these other people are just in him, constantly haunting him and driving him crazy, and kind of messing up his life.
Yeah.
There's a character, I think his name was Voltek, but he was he's a Russian character that was kind of like a throwaway kind of Russian program that they deemed a failure, and turns out he lived, and through events he becomes close friends with Arthur Curry, and they work together to help each other out in different circumstances. There's a romantic kind of tie-in prior to Mara, obviously, with this woman who has she's from the Amazon, and she has certain spiritual powers based on practices of her ancestors and stuff like that. And there's a Middle Eastern girl who's very critical to the main storyline in that run, and she has kind of like spiritual powers too, to an extent, but she's more like psychic, whereas the Amazon woman was more like she could tap into like the earth and the animals and whatever else. So there was just a really cool dynamic with all the characters. It was written really well. It was drawn really well, and I really loved Aquaman's costume because they made him kind of younger, kind of shaggier. He had like necklaces and stuff, and like he didn't have like the full like royal garb, but
It's more of a beach boy.
he was still like recognizable as Aquaman, and it was just really good. And he had the trident in this universe, because it was kind of left behind by his mother as like a memento type of thing, and his father basically kept it from him more or less until he became an adult and was more responsible enough to wield it and that sort of thing. So after his father's passing, he's able to take charge and do what he wants with his life, and that's kind of what he does. And he decides to help people, as you would expect from a superhero.
Right, yeah.
But it's in a way that isn't like too corny and actually makes sense. So I would like to see that team dynamic fleshed out a lot more, because it was really good and really enjoyable. And I would say the same thing for the Justice League International group. Again, I don't know if they're the same characters or not in DC anymore. I assume not, but that was a cool team dynamic with Booster Gold and
Booster Gold.
Guy Gardner. He's the redhead, right?
Yeah.
Guy Gardner, the hot-headed Green Lantern.
Who should just be a Red Lantern.
Yeah. They had this Chinese general He used like a mech suit and stuff,
Nice.
and like it was just like really cool like ragtag group that were meant to just kind of like do some secret missions for like Interpol and stuff like that. And then Batman, because they needed to sell books, would show up from time to time as the leader of the group, but he wasn't really the leader of the group. He just kind of told you who was the leader of the group.
Yep.
You know, he'd be like, Booster Gold's in charge, and Guy Gardner would be like, fuck that guy, I'm more powerful than him, you know. It was a really fun book and really cool and really kind of heartfelt, especially towards the end there. It's a really good run. So those are just a few universes I would love to see more of. Those ones based in the New 52. Are there any other big ones? I feel like we're probably missing one or two like huge ones, but I can't really think of them.
I was maybe going to mention the Ultimate Marvel Universe.
Isn't that like super
Except
dead?
they kind of exist after Secret Wars too.
Oh no,
Oh,
it's
jeez.
dead.
I mean, Miles and all those characters are there.
Yeah, they came over, but that
yeah.
universe is done.
Whew.
And I'm still mad.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool things. I think Ultimate was a lot like New 52, where they had a lot of risky and cool ideas, and I wish they would have just kind of rode with it for a while, and then
It lasted a while.
Yeah, and then did
Yeah.
another reboot and for a new unique universe instead of bringing back the old universe mixed with the Ultimate Universe.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Which is what DC did with Convergence.
Yeah,
so
the
it's just
Battle World for Marvel was a terrible time.
yeah.
Oh boy.
There's a lot of
I think
Grant
you told me about
Grant
that.
Morrison had a book called Multiversity, which is kind of a spin-off of his multiverse books and the pre-New 52 universe. And then he would basically create some new random universe, and they all had an overarching tie-in story about the this one team from bits and pieces of each universe to try to save all of the universes from a certain threat. But each one would have a focused story about one universe. And there is one in particular that I really liked that was kind of like 52 classic superhero-esque, but instead of focusing on like, you know, old Flash and Alan Scott Green Lantern and, you know, the classic old characters from 52, it focused more on guys like Dr. Fate and like you know, some lesser known characters that really don't get enough love and looked really cool in that kind of like 50s 40s like, you know, World War II-esque aesthetic. And it was a really fun, cool book, and I would love to see more fleshed out from that and see more characters from that universe pop up because it was really cool. It was really, really neat. But yeah, that's all I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah,
I don't have
think
anything else.
I think that's all I've got.
So listeners, be sure to let us know in the comments and on Twitter at HTBVids and on Facebook at facebook.com/hitthebooks what you would like to see more of. What universes and spinoffs would you like to see? What characters would you like to be given their own specific canon separate from the main canon to further flesh things out? Or do you think they should just not be touched and be left alone and not potentially tarnished
Make me sound like an old man.
for
Stop
future
that.
for future fans? I agree with you for the most part. I mean, the Dark Knight Returns #3, I was like, nobody asked for this, you know, and like it was fine, but I just I didn't feel it really added to the whole, you know. Well, folks, I think that wraps up another mediocre edition of Hit the Books
Hey.
podcast.
Mediocre.
Actually, this is a pretty great podcast.
I had a good time.
I gotta
Yeah.
say, I want to thank our special guest Seth Grover here.
Thank you for
Is
having
there
me, all
anything
of
you
you.
want to pimp out?
No, I do nothing.
Well, maybe we'll change that.
Yeah, maybe. I had a great time. Thank you. Listen to these guys do more cool stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And get back into comics. I know I'm probably going to. That's not. I'm going to. There, we'll put it that way. Yeah.
Remember, support your local comic book shop.
Yes.
But don't feel bad if you have to use your digital devices. We do,
Yeah.
especially when we got to catch up on 34 issues of Aquaman.
Right. No matter what the medium, supporting comics is what we're about here.
Thank you all for sticking with us. If you like what you hear, be sure to hit like and subscribe here on our YouTube channel. It really helps us out. And
Yeah.
follow us on your podcast services and social networks of choice.
Yeah. Also, make sure to hit the bell for notifications if you are subscribed to us. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with algorithms, but subscribe to us, and hit the bell for notifications to make 100% sure that you are up to date with everything we're putting out.
Hit the bell like hit the books. I
Oh,
get
yeah.
that. Nice.
Hit the bells.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, sometimes it'll just automatically do it. Sometimes it doesn't. So
Yeah.
you might have to do it. So make sure that's activated if you want the notifications when we got a new episode out for you. We're on Twitter at HTBVids. We're on Facebook at /HitTheBooks. Remember, you can always comment on the YouTube channel. Our website is htbvids.com. And of course, we have our Patreon page, patreon.com/HitTheBooks. All one word there, and you can contribute as little or as much as you would like to and are able to. We would be very appreciative, and it helps keep the mics on for your personal independent content. Excuse me. Another big thank you to our executive producer for the month, Will Beasley. You have contributed a great amount, and we are very, very thankful for your contribution and your continued listenership and
Will.
friendship, because he's my buddy.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Look forward to your mystery picked graphic novel
Ooh.
coming soon.
That could be yours, people out there.
Yep. Remember, if you contribute on the executive tier, which again is a very generous tier and not necessary whatsoever,
Right.
you do get a random, well, specialized, depending on what you tell us, graphic novel volume sent to your door for that particular month, and as well as all the perks of the previous tiers, like getting a shout out on the show, getting a handwritten letter, thank you letter from Emery and I, and blah, 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 blah. So,
Yeah. And if you don't send us any suggestions as to what you would like, we're going to give you the goods.
remember, if you want us to discuss a certain topic on the show, you can always either contribute on Patreon, or if you're broke, you can send it to us on Twitter and Facebook, and maybe we'll take it.
Or maybe leave a comment in the comment section.
Yep, also
that works
available.
too.
Believe me, I see it all. Thank you once again for watching. We will see you next week on episode 31.